Every MLB stadium has its moment. The night cheers shook the stadium, and something unforgettable happened.
We will see you tomorrow night.
Just hearing the names Fenway, Wrigley, or Dodger Stadium brings decades of history and greatness to mind. But the real question is, what is the best game from every MLB stadium? With 30 active parks, that means choosing 30 defining moments, some obvious classics, others nearly impossible to pick. A few choices came down to pure personal judgment. Some involve heartbreak for the home crowd, and in a couple of cases, the greatest game in a stadium's history didn't even feature the home team at all. This is the search for the greatest game ever played in every ballpark in Major League Baseball. Of the 30 legendary games split between these historic parks, it's only fitting for us to start with the oldest and most iconic stadium in baseball. Boston's timeless ballpark, Fenway.
Let me tell you something, man. I played 3,500 games, and that's the most exciting game I ever played in.
1975 was an iconic year for baseball. Mike Schmidt was mashing. Jim Palmer was shutting down hitters. Rod Carew and Greg Luzinski were in their primes. But conveniently, I'm leaving out one name. The hero of this story. A name many of you may already know. With their backs against the wall, trailing 3-2 in the World Series, the Red Sox returned home on a cold October night, desperate to push the fight to a Game 7 against the Reds. That year, the Reds were a juggernaut. A lineup stacked with 5 future Hall of Famers or MVPs. A team that steamrolled its way to 108 regular season wins. They were undoubtedly the better team in the matchup, but it was the Red Sox who struck first. In the bottom of the first inning, Fred Lynn electrified Fenway with a 3-run blast, giving Boston an early 3-0 lead. For the next few innings, both pitching staffs tightened up, trading zeros as the score held steady. Then, in the 5th, Ken Griffey ripped a clutch 2-run triple to clear the bases, and with 2 outs, Johnny Bench lined a single off the green monster to bring Griffey home. Suddenly, the game was tied at 3. By the 7th, Cincinnati's offense came alive again. After back-to-back hits put runners on, George Foster laced a double, driving in both and giving the Reds their first lead of the night, 5-3. Then, in the 8th, Cesar Geronimo delivered what looked like a dagger, a towering solo shot that stretched the Reds' lead to 6-3. Cincinnati was just 6 outs away from being World Series champions. For the bottom of the inning, they turned to Pedro Bourbon, but he immediately faltered, giving up a hit and issuing a walk. The Reds wasted no time to call on their fireballing closer, Raleigh Eastwick, one of the game's brightest young relievers, asking him for a rare 6-out save. At first, the gamble looked brilliant. Eastwick set down 2 quick outs. Fenway grew quiet. And then, Bernie Carbo stepped from the dugout. A pinch hitter. Riding the bench for most of the playoffs, he only had 1 hit all postseason and hadn't even seen a pitch in exactly a week. Carbo, once a first-round pick and prized prospect of these very Reds, never lived up to the hype in Cincinnati. Then, years after they drafted him, he now stood in the box against them, with the fate of the World Series on the line. But behind the drama was an even darker truth. Bernie Carbo later admitted he was addicted to drugs, and he was even high during this very game.
Nobody did as many drugs as I did. I was addicted to the point where I couldn't play without the drugs.
Carbo wasn't looking to be a hero. His only thought, somehow, some way, get on base to keep the inning alive for the top of the order. What happened next was far greater than survival. It was the swing of his life.
Deep center field, way back, we're tied up.
Just like that, against all odds, Carbo had tied the game. Carbo had the highest championship win probability added of plus 28.71 of anyone on the Red Sox that year because of his timely home runs and 1929 OPS in the World Series. This individual hit ranks as the 36th most impactful hit of all time, with plus 23.76% championship win probability added. Now, whether or not the plethora of drugs he was on were performance enhancing, working against him, or a net neutral is up in the air. Don't do drugs, kids.
I don't need drugs. Hey, it can kill you.
But that's not what we're talking about in this video, and no matter the circumstances, it happened. And now, with the game tied in the bottom of the ninth, the Red Sox carried all the momentum. A walk, then a single. Suddenly, the winning run was standing on second base, with nobody out. The Reds, terrified of Carlton Fisk, made the choice to put him on intentionally. Bases loaded, no outs. The crowd on its feet. All Boston needed was contact, a single, even a deep fly ball. The Reds moved their infield and outfield in to try and stop the winning run from scoring.
And of course, I'm sure we will see the infield and outfield drawn in.
Denny Doyle stood just 90 feet away from glory. And with Fred Lynn stepping into the box, it felt inevitable. Lynn lifted a fly ball into left. The park erupted, sensing victory.
Doyle tagged for third.
Could this be the game? George Foster unleashed a throw so perfect, so devastating, and it cut him down at the plate.
In time! Doyle is out, Foster to bench. A double play.
Just like that, the rally died. The Reds regrouped, retired the next batter, and the game, already legendary, was headed for extra innings. Both teams went down without a run in the 10th, with one on, one out in the top of the 11th. MVP Joe Morgan smoked a ball that looked like it could give the Reds the lead back.
To the wall and, oh, what a catch he made! What a catch by Dwight Evans, and it's a double play. Griffey didn't know what happened as Evans made a spectacular catch, and take a look at this.
Fenway exploded. What could have been heartbreak became a surge of hope. The game pressed on into the bottom of the 12th, with Carlton Fisk leading off. And then, history was made.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run! The Red Sox win! And the series is tied 3 games apiece.
The Red Sox forced a Game 7, with one of the most iconic swings in baseball history. Game 6 of the 1975 World Series was a masterpiece. The kind of game that defined Fenway forever. Unfortunately, the Red Sox would go on to lose the series in Game 7. And from one old iconic stadium to another, we now head back to 1988 to look at the best game in Dodger Stadium history. On paper, this was a matchup defined by afterthoughts. Neither starting pitcher was expected to steal the spotlight. Tim Belcher of the Dodgers had long carried the label of unfulfilled potential. At one point, he was dealt from Oakland to LA as a player to be named later.
They had no reason but to give up on me. I mean, I was very inconsistent for 4 years in the minor leagues with them. I think it'll be fun, though, to play against some old friends and see everybody and compete against them on the same field in an atmosphere like the Fall Classic.
Opposing him was Dave Stewart of the Athletics, who had an even stranger path. Originally drafted by the Dodgers as a catcher, he converted to a pitcher, then bounced through 3 organizations before finally reinventing himself in Oakland in 1986.
I think they knew me. They don't know me now. They haven't seen me in 5, almost 6 years.
The game began chaotic.
Steve Sachs reached base after being plunked by a pitch, and 2 batters later, Mickey Hatcher, a journeyman with just 1 home run all season, stunned the stadium with a 2-run blast. 2-0 Dodgers. Hatcher was the first of many improbable heroes for Los Angeles. In the top of the second, Belcher's command betrayed him. He loaded the bases, bringing up the American League's home run king, Jose Canseco. Despite all his home runs, Canseco somehow had 0 career grand slams, but that was until now.
And there's a drive to center. Back goes Shelby to the wall. It is gone. Grand slam home run.
With 1 swing, the A's seized a 4-2 lead. From there, the bats cooled. Both sides put runners on, but sharp defense and clutch pitching held the line. The score remained frozen at 4-2 until the bottom of the 6th, when the Dodgers strung together 3 straight hits to cut the deficit to 1. Momentum seemed ready to shift, but Dave Stewart, unshaken by the moment, shut down the top of the order in the 7th, rolled through the middle of the lineup in the 8th, and exited with a 4-3 lead. That left the stage for Oakland's best arm to finish the game, Dennis Eckersley. He was the league's save leader, the runner-up for the Cy Young Award, and the most dominant closer in baseball. And he came in to face the Dodgers' 6, 7, and 8 hitters. The bottom of the 9th went as planned to start. First, Mike Scioscia popped out. Then, Jeff Hamilton went down on strikes. 2 outs. 1 more, and the A's would steal Game 1 on the road. Up next, pinch hitter Mike Davis, a familiar face in Oakland. Having spent 8 seasons with the A's, now a Dodger, and struggling badly, hitting just 190 on the season, all Davis had to do was find a way to get on base to extend the game. After fouling off the first pitch, Davis laid off 3 straight outside pitches that just barely missed. Now he's up 3-1 in the count, although a walk still seemed unlikely. Eckersley had walked only 13 batters all year, and he just needed to get 1 over the zone since he wasn't threatened by Davis's bat. But Eckersley missed outside again and put the tying run on first base. And waiting on deck was Kirk Gibson.
And look who's coming up.
Gibson was the Dodgers' best hitter and their fiery leader who carried them through the season. But he was broken. He suffered a hamstring injury in Game 5 of the NLCS, then a knee injury on his other leg just days later in Game 7. Gibson could no longer run with all these injuries, so he wasn't even in the starting lineup for this game. He wasn't supposed to play at all. Dodgers broadcaster Vin Scully told millions of viewers Gibson wasn't even in the dugout.
And there is no Gibson, the man who was the spearhead of the Dodger offense throughout the year.
But in the clubhouse, Gibson heard that broadcast, heard them say he wasn't there, and that lit a fire.
In fact, I heard Vin Scully say they were panning the dugout looking for me, saying it didn't look like I was going to be able to play, and I said, that's enough.
He dragged himself up, got dressed, and made his way to the dugout. And so, with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, the Dodgers turned to their wounded warrior. He could barely even walk. He certainly couldn't run. But in the biggest moment of the season, all they needed was his swing.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone!
The Dodgers and Red Sox, 2 of baseball's most storied franchises. For over 60 years, their stadiums have become home to legends. Heartbreak, and some of the most iconic games the sport has ever seen. But not every ballpark needed decades to build its greatest moments. Some announced their presence on day one. It's opening night, 1995. A new season, a new ballpark, and a new chapter for Major League Baseball's newest franchise. The Colorado Rockies were finally home, opening the doors of Coors Field for ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball against the New York Mets. For 2 years, the Rockies had been nomads, sharing Mile High Stadium with the Denver Broncos, and in those 2 years, they'd been among baseball's worst teams. But 1995 felt different. This time they carried one of the league's most dangerous lineups: Dante Bichette, Andres Galarraga, and prized free agent Larry Walker. And then there was the stadium itself. Sitting 5,000 feet above sea level, Coors Field was unlike anything the game had ever seen. Thin air, expansive gaps, a hitter's paradise. Everyone knew it could be a launching pad. What no one expected was just how explosive it would be on night one.
Punched into left field, base hit. Left center field. That one's going to be in there. Down the left field line. It's going to be extra bases. That's a base hit for Galarraga.
The Rockies' offense settled in right away, flexing their firepower with 5 runs across the first 5 innings to grab a 5-1 lead. But the Mets were ready to join the shootout. In the 6th, the Mets loaded the bases and Todd Hundley made history.
There's a long drive and it's tied up! What a shot!
With one swing, he crushed the first grand slam ever hit at Coors. Suddenly, the game was tied. The Rockies answered right back in the bottom half, scratching across a run on a sac fly to reclaim the lead. But at Coors Field, no advantage felt safe. In the top of the 7th, Bobby Bonilla stepped in and ripped a double into the gap, bringing the Mets even once again. The tug-of-war was officially on. The deadlock held until the top of the 9th. A walk, a bunt, and then Bobby Bonilla struck again, lining a single into left to give the Mets the lead. For Colorado, disaster loomed. New York handed the ball to their all-star closer, John Franco, to finish the night and spoil the Rockies' grand opening. And at first, he looked every bit like the shutdown ace he was said to be. A harmless pop-out, then a strikeout. Just like that, the Rockies were down to their final out. Stepping in to face Franco was their prized off-season addition, Larry Walker, the newest Rocky, and his very first game at Coors, with the weight of a city and a sold-out crowd on his shoulders.
That's a base hit into the alleyway! They're going to have to hurry it back! Butler with the relay, they're sending it home! Sweet! It's tied up!
The game marched into extra innings, tied once again. The 10th brought heart-stopping drama. A towering fly to the warning track that silenced the crowd before dropping harmlessly into a glove. In the 11th, tempers flared. A borderline check swing call against Bobby Bonilla, and he wasn't having it. Moments later, after striking out, Bonilla and Mets manager Dallas Green were both ejected. Because really, what classic game doesn't have a little chaos and an old-fashioned ejection? Then, in the bottom of the 12th, it looked like destiny had arrived. Andres Galarraga crushed a ball into the gap, and the crowd was already on its feet. Sure, it was at least a double, but Brett Butler had other plans.
Butler on the run, makes the catch, crashes into the wall. What a play by Butler.
This unreal play saved the Mets, and Butler carried this over to the plate with a perfectly placed double in the 13th, and then he scored on a Jose Vizcaíno single. The Mets almost put more runs on the board, but Dante Bichette got in on the amazing defensive plays himself with a great leaping catch to prevent any extra runs.
It was 8-7 Mets going into the bottom of the 13th. The Rockies wouldn't go down without a fight. Mike Kingery reached on a single, and then the Rockies called for a pinch hitter, Jim Tatum, who, with all the chaos, was the 43rd player to enter the game, and this was his moment to become the most important player for the Rockies.
Base hit down the line. Otero chases it. They're going to wave him home. Here comes the relay. It's tied up again.
The game was tied again, going into the 14th inning, where the Mets once again pushed the Rockies to the brink. Ricky Otero led off with a single. Then he was moved into scoring position on a bunt. And then came a bizarre pop fly, a ball that Dante Bichette clearly misjudged. It wasn't pretty, but it gave New York the lead. The Rockies escaped without further damage, but now they were down to their last 3 outs. 1 run needed just to survive. Joe Girardi sparked hope immediately with his 4th hit of the night. After Larry Walker went down swinging, Andres Galarraga smoked a sharp grounder to third, mishandled by Tim Begar. Everyone was safe. The tying run was on. The winning run was aboard. And that's when it came full circle. The man who had misplayed the fly ball in the top of the inning, Dante Bichette, now stood in the box with the game and the first night at Coors Field in his hands.
A high drive, way back, and there's the storybook ending for the Rockies. The Rockies have won it.
What a game to start off a new stadium with. All the offense from both sides showed what was in hold for the future of Coors Field, and this night will never be forgotten. But sometimes the greatest game in a stadium's history isn't about offense at all. Sometimes it's about a single pitcher taking the mound and doing something that's never been seen before. For Wrigley, that moment came not in October, but on an otherwise ordinary afternoon in May of 1998, when a 20-year-old rookie named Kerry Wood authored one of the most dominant performances the game has ever seen. Kerry Wood was the 4th overall pick for the Cubs in 1995. By the spring of 1998, at just 20 years old, Wood had cracked the big league rotation. He was one of the youngest pitchers in the majors, and it showed. His first few starts were erratic, at times looking like a kid not ready for the stage. And then came May 6th, 1998, just his 5th career start, on the mound at Wrigley against the first place Houston Astros, a lineup stacked with future Hall of Famers. Wood said that he wasn't even on his game that day. He stated in interviews that he had an awful bullpen where he couldn't throw a strike, so he decided to shut it down early to save his arm for the game. All signs pointed to this being another rough game for him, but something changed.
I just really try to take a deep breath, try to forget what you just did in the bullpen, know that your body's loose, and go out and try to go get them.
Got him with the heat. 1 down. Changes speeds. Bell strikes out. The gunslinger ready, the 2-2. Strike 3 call.
Kerry Wood struck out the side to open the game, and the crowd could feel it. The shaky rookie they'd seen before wasn't on the mound today. In the second, he kept rolling, fanning the first 2 batters with ease. His fastball was electric, his breaking ball unhittable. Then came the third. The leadoff hitter, Ricky Gutierrez, chopped a sharp grounder in the hole at third. Kevin Ory got a glove on it, but couldn't reel it in cleanly. Some said it should have been an error. The scorekeeper, however, called it a hit, and as history would later show, it was the only hit the Astros would manage all afternoon. Wood struck out the next batter, and then 2 more outs to escape the third. In the bottom half of the third, the Cubs scratched across a run to give Wood a lead, and he never looked back. The 4th inning, 3 up, 3 down, with 2 more strikeouts. Pure domination. The 5th, even better. 3 batters stepped in, and 3 batters walked back, shaking their heads. At that point, through just 5 innings, Kerry Wood already had 11 strikeouts. The crowd at Wrigley were watching a historic game take shape. But as Wood stepped on the mound for the 7th, a new obstacle appeared. The skies darkened. The wind picked up. It began raining, and for a moment it seemed the weather itself might rob him the chance to finish what he had started.
I specifically remember sitting on the mound looking over my glove going, don't call this, don't call this.
Despite the scare, the umps let them play on, and Wood didn't slow down. The 7th inning was a masterclass, 3 strikeouts swinging to retire the side.
He's punched out 15.
And in the 8th, 3 more strikeouts to break the Cubs' record.
He strikes out the side again. 18 strikeouts.
Top of the 9th, the Cubs were clinging to a 2-0 lead. Kerry Wood, 2 strikeouts away from the record, and 3 outs away from a complete game shutout. First up, Bill Spires. 4 pitches, gone, strikeout number 19. The crowd roared, every fan on their feet, knowing they were witnessing the unthinkable. Next came Craig Biggio, a future Hall of Famer. Wood went right at him, but this time the magic paused. Biggio chopped a grounder, ending Wood's streak of 7 consecutive strikeouts. Nonetheless, 2 outs and 1 more strikeout to go.
Got a chance to tie Clemens if he can retire Bell.
Wood got ahead 1-2 in the count, and the rest is history.
Here comes the hook. Got it! 20 strikeouts. He ties the Major League record.
This game has been in the record books ever since, and it was one of the most unexpected gems of all time. When something like this happens, it's something fans can associate with and remember being there, how they contributed, and the incredible atmosphere. On this afternoon, the Cubs fans at Wrigley helped something special happen.
I tell you what, I'm going to give most of the credit to the fans. They were in it the whole game, and every time I got 2 strikes, they were on their feet, and you can't ask for anything more than that.
For a stadium that has been played in for over 100 years, there were many memories and iconic games, but this seemingly random game in May holds the hearts of many to this day. From a rather meaningless regular season game to the biggest stage, we're going to move over to Chase Field, November 4th, 2001, for Game 7 of the World Series. The Yankees were chasing their 4th straight championship. As for the Diamondbacks, they were only in their 4th season of existence. But this wasn't your typical expansion team. Arizona built a roster of rejects and veterans no one else wanted. Their starting lineup averaged 34 years old. They utilized the expansion draft, free agency, and traded prospects for proven bats that were unwanted, including Luis Gonzalez, who rewarded them with a .325 average and 57 home runs. And on the mound, they went all in, assembling one of the greatest 1-2 punches the game had ever seen, Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling, who were the Cy Young winner and runner-up. The series began in Arizona with pure dominance behind Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. The Diamondbacks took the first 2 games at home. But when the stage shifted to New York, everything changed. Forced to rely on the rest of their rotation, Arizona stumbled, dropping 3 straight and falling behind 3-2 in the series. Game 6 became the turning point. Randy Johnson took the ball, and the Diamondbacks unleashed a 15-2 win to force Game 7. And what a matchup it was. Curt Schilling, the National League Cy Young runner-up, against Roger Clemens, the American League Cy Young runner-up. 2 titans. 1 game. Arguably the greatest Game 7 pitching showdown in baseball history. Through the first 5 innings, it was pure dominance on the mound. It was 0-0 heading into the 6th, with neither pitcher experiencing any real trouble. In the bottom of the 6th, Steve Finley singled, and then Danny Batista finally got the scoring started.
Into left center field. That ball is going to get down. That ball is going to put Arizona on top. Danny Batista delivers again.
In the top of the 7th, Schilling had to face the tough Yankees top of the order, with a 1-run lead. The third time through the order, the Yankees offense looked ready to hit. Jeter singled, then Paul O'Neill singled, and after Jeter advanced on a groundout, Tino Martinez tied the game on a clutch single. In the bottom of the 7th, Clemens got the first out, then allowed a single, and he looked gassed as he was sitting at 114 pitches. So after a mound visit, the Yankees decided to pull him. A quick caught stealing and pop-out ended the inning. The Diamondbacks decided to roll Curt Schilling out for the 8th inning. It was a questionable call, but with their bullpen struggles, it was understandable. However, Alfonso Soriano responded and put the Yankees ahead.
Soriano into deep left field. At the wall, Yankees on top, 2-1.
Schilling got the next out. But then, when the top of the order came up again, he was pulled. Miguel Batista came in and sat down Derek Jeter, and then, out of nowhere, Randy Johnson was called into the game. Johnson had just pitched 104 pitches the night before and was always a starting pitcher. This was one of the most unexpected decisions ever, but it's Game 7, and with a struggling bullpen, why not lean on your fatigued superstar? Johnson would go on to finish out the inning. When the Diamondbacks came to bat, it felt like the story was already written. Entering from the bullpen was none other than Mariano Rivera, the most dominant closer the game had ever seen. This was the man who defined October. In 67 postseason innings, Rivera had surrendered only 5 runs. He had recorded the final out in each of the last 3 World Series. When a closer like Rivera takes the mound, it's hard to expect much more, and Rivera against the heart of the Diamondbacks lineup got 3 strikeouts to keep the lead going into the 9th. More dominant pitching happened on the other side, as Randy Johnson had a flawless 1-2-3 inning. Now, the Diamondbacks, with their backs against the wall, had 3 outs to try and tie the game against the most dominant closer ever.
Into center field, a good start for Arizona. Grace with his 3rd hit.
This was the start Arizona needed. And then the pressure of the big moment hit Rivera, and he completely botched this bunt opportunity.
Throw to second, into center field.
Rivera steadied himself on the next bunt attempt, fielding it cleanly and getting the Yankees their first out, but now he had to face the top of the Diamondbacks order. At the plate stood Tony Womack. He was more known for his speed than his bat. He wasn't the kind of hitter you expected to change history. Arizona wasn't asking for a miracle, just contact, anything to keep the enemy alive. And then Womack delivered. In the biggest moment of his career, he became the first hero of Game 7.
One out, and Womack into right field, a hit. Here comes Cummings. It's tied. Going to third is Bell. Tony Womack delivers. It's 2-2.
Rivera was on the edge now, and he completely lost control of this pitch in the next at-bat to load the bases. Luis Gonzalez is up to the plate, one of the best hitters versus the game's best closer. This is a peak baseball moment.
Floater, center field. The Diamondbacks are world champions.
This game was baseball at its best. A walk-off in Game 7 of the World Series. An unbelievable pitching duel that featured 4 of the best pitchers ever, and an expansion team only 4 years into their existence against all odds, upsetting a dynasty. As much as baseball is dominated by the big market teams in 2026, there's always a sneaky underdog, small market team that breaks that trend. And this was much more apparent back in 2002. Most people know the story, or have seen the movie, about the 2002 Moneyball Athletics. The year before, they came so close, only to watch their superstar Jason Giambi walk away in free agency. They couldn't spend with the top markets, so they reinvented the game instead. Billy Beane's Moneyball experiment built a roster not on household names, but on data, discipline, and overlooked talent that other clubs had disregarded. And somehow it worked. The A's became a machine and dominated. By September, they had ripped off 19 straight wins, tying the American League record. One more would make history. And as they took the field to go for 20 wins, it immediately felt like they had secured the record.
And a ground ball between third and short in the left field, a base hit. Mabry getting the wave as the ball gets through Ibanez. Now Tejada's going to come in to score. Fly ball right field, twisting away from Tucker and up by him to the wall. Dye on his way to second, and now he's heading for third. This ball's driven right center field, headed for the gap. And it's off the base of the wall. In to score is Law, and here in the first inning, the rout is on already.
They exploded right out of the gate. After just one inning, the A's were already up 6-0, and by the third, a relentless string of hits pushed the lead all the way to 11-0. It looked like a complete blowout, but the Royals weren't about to be anyone's footnote in history. They clawed back, swing by swing, determined to spoil Oakland's night. In the top of the fourth, Kansas City quietly reeled in 5 runs, slicing the once comfortable lead nearly in half. The A's pitching staff regrouped, quieting the Royals' bats through the next 3 innings. By the 8th, Oakland still held their comfortable 11-5 lead. They were 6 outs away from securing a place in the history books. And then Kansas City came alive once again. They loaded the bases with 2 walks and a single, and then scored 2 from a fielder's choice and sac fly. With 2 outs and 2 on, Mike Sweeney completely opened up this game.
The 3-2. High fly ball pulled down the left field line toward the corner at the wall. It is gone.
Through 4 hard-fought innings, the Royals had stormed all the way back. What was once an 11-0 blowout was now just a 1-run game. The A's looked rattled, their momentum gone as they continued quietly into the bottom of the 8th. Despite surrendering 10 unanswered runs, Oakland was still 3 outs away from history. But Kansas City refused to quit. Joe Ronda led off with a sharp single, and a sacrifice bunt moved the tying run into scoring position. The tension was unbearable. D. Brown struck out for the second out. Now the A's were a single pitch away. 1 out, 1 strike from the record. But Luis Alicia wasn't ready to let it end. With 2 strikes against him, he delivered to keep the Royals alive.
Sliced into left field, it's dropping a base hit. And the Royals have tied it here in the 9th inning.
This was one of the craziest swings in baseball history, in a game where one team was already chasing history. Then, in the bottom of the 9th, with 1 out, the A's called for Scott Hatteberg to come up and pinch hit. Scott Hatteberg was the ultimate afterthought. Once a solid catcher in Boston, an elbow injury ended up costing him his job. In 2001, he had the worst season of his career. So bad that the Red Sox shipped him to Colorado, only for the Rockies to release him within days. To most teams, he was finished. A catcher who couldn't throw was not worth a roster spot. But then came the Oakland A's. They saw something no one else did. Not a broken catcher, but a hitter with an elite eye. Even at his lowest, Hatteberg reached base at an above-average rate. Oakland didn't want him behind the plate, because his defensive value was costing him. They wanted him at first base. It was a gamble, and he would have big shoes to fill in the absence of Jason Giambi. It looked rough, but as the season wore on, Hatteberg found his stride. By the time of the streak, he was having the best year of his career, and now, on September 4th, he stood at the plate, with a chance to deliver not just a win, but a moment that would define the entire Moneyball experiment.
Swung on, fly ball, deep right field, they've done it again!
Hatteberg went from afterthought to hero, and the A's now held the American League record for wins in a row. That night and that swing from Scott Hatteberg captured everything the Oakland A's stood for. Overlooked, doubted, but finding a way to win. It's bittersweet to know that no new memories will be made in the Coliseum, but its legacy is secure. For decades, it gave us moments like this, games that defied the odds, players who rose from obscurity, and memories that'll echo long after the lights go out in Oakland. Just a month after Hatteberg's heroics in Oakland came an even more iconic game, one still regarded as one of the greatest postseason moments in baseball history. On one side stood the Giants, led by Barry Bonds, the most feared hitter on the planet, chasing his first championship and the franchise's first title since moving to San Francisco. On the other were the Angels, the scrappy wildcard team that refused to die, powered by clutch hitting, an unrelenting bullpen, and a fan base that believed in miracles. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The Giants were one win away from their first World Series title in nearly half a century. The Angels were fighting to keep their season alive for just one more game. Both teams rolled out their Game 2 starters, who were both rocked earlier in the series, and there was little confidence for either of them. But in a tense elimination game, to the surprise of everyone, they were both dominant through 4 innings, allowing no runs to score. In the top of the 5th, the Giants broke through. David Bell led off with a single, and moments later, veteran Sean Dunston turned on a pitch and crushed it.
Anderson at the wall, 2-0 Giants. Home run Sean Dunston, and in Game 6, a 5th inning lead.
The inning didn't stop there. Kenny Lofton followed with a ringing double, and then Lofton did what he does best and created chaos on the bases. He swiped third with ease, and with 2 outs, raced home on a wild pitch. This made it 3-0 Giants. Then, in the top of the 6th, the inevitable happened. Barry Bonds, the most feared hitter alive, stepped in and delivered a home run.
That is crushed deep into the night, and it's 4-0. Oh! Woo-hoo!
It was vintage Bonds, and this sent a sense that the series was slipping away from the Angels. And things kept getting worse for them. Throughout this game, it was a constant cycle of just falling short on crushed hits or getting runners on and failing to score them. In the top of the 7th, Kenny Lofton did his thing yet again. After he singled, he stole second and then advanced to third on a throwing error. This put him in perfect position to score, and now it's a 5-run lead. Throughout that postseason, the Angels had a secret weapon, one that wasn't on the roster. The Rally Monkey. Born as a joke during a regular season game, it became the team's heartbeat, flashing across the screen whenever Anaheim needed hope. And in Game 6, down late and desperate, it made its return. This offered a glimmer of hope to the crowd and players, that even in an awful situation, a miracle can happen. Russ Ortiz stayed on the mound for the Giants to start the 7th, and got 2 outs, but then gave up back-to-back singles, which ended his night. The Giants now called for Felix Rodriguez to get them out of the jam. For the Angels, stepping onto the plate was Scott Spiezio. This was the Angels' opportunity. Either they could let up with runners on base like they had all game, or Spiezio could make himself the hero and help keep the season alive. The at-bat was a battle.
I was coming up there, I was preparing myself to drive in a run any way possible. I knew we needed a spark, and I knew we needed a run on the board.
Spiezio hits one into deep right field. Back is Sanders at the wall.
The power of the rally monkey was working. In the top of the 8th, the Giants were shut down, keeping the deficit at 2. The Angels still trailed 5-3, but they had life. For San Francisco, it was simple. They were 6 outs away from a title. Unfortunately for the Giants, the momentum had been slowly shifting to Anaheim's side. The crowd was on its feet, rally monkeys flying everywhere. And then, on the very first pitch, Darren Erstad made the crowd erupt.
Smoked into right. It's a one-run game.
This sparked another rally, as they followed up with 2 clutch hits to put runners on 2nd and 3rd. At this point, the Giants turned to their all-star closer, Rob Nen, early to try and get a 2-inning save. The first batter he saw was Troy Gloss. Gloss had been the Angels' best and most clutch hitter all postseason. Time and time again, he delivered when it mattered. And with all the lights on him, in the biggest stage, he punched an unforgettable moment into baseball history.
Into left center field. Bonds on the run, won't get it. And the Anaheim Angels have come all the way back and lead it 6-5.
After this, the Angels shut down the last attempt for the Giants.
We'll see you tomorrow night.
A 5-run comeback in a World Series elimination game. It's the kind of moment baseball might never see again. The 2002 Angels created a legend. They spoiled Barry Bonds' greatest shot at a championship and capped off an unbelievable comeback. That night defined everything beautiful about the game. Heartbreak, hope, and the belief that no lead, no matter how safe, is ever truly safe. It was a rainy night in Chicago, but that didn't stop the fireworks from lighting up the sky as the White Sox took the field, aiming to grab a 2-0 lead in the World Series. The last time they won a World Series was 1917, which most fans weren't even alive to see. On the mound, fans were treated to a classic duel between 2 of baseball's finest crafty left-handers, Mark Buehrle and Andy Pettitte. Both pitchers worked cleanly through the first inning. But on the first pitch of the second, Morgan Ensberg jumped all over a mistake from Buehrle, sending it deep to give the Astros an early lead. The White Sox got them back, stringing together 3 straight hits in the bottom half to tie the game at 1. Then, with 1 out, Juan Uribe lifted a routine pop-up to second. And that's when things got weird.
Out goes Biggio. The second baseman is there, bobbles it, drops it. Pierzynski will score.
Craig Biggio was a Gold Glover and future Hall of Famer. He was the last person anyone expected to botch this play. And now the White Sox had the lead. In the next inning, Willie Taveras got a great bounce on his hit and legged out a triple. He later scored on a sac fly to tie the game. Lance Berkman then broke the tie a few innings later with a sharp double down the line that took another funky bounce and was bobbled as 2 runs came across to score. In the 5th inning, Andy Pettitte's elite defense kept the Astros ahead. On a grounder right back to him, he caught Uribe slipping and then without panic, ran at him and cut the distance to make him concede in the rundown. Then he picked off another runner to end the frame. This was his 9th career postseason pickoff, which is just absurd. In the 7th, the Astros turned to their bullpen, pulling Andy Pettitte after a strong outing, and this opened a window for the White Sox. After a double and a walk, Jermaine Dye was hit to load the bases, or so the umpire said. Replay told a different story. The ball clearly clipped Dye's bat, not his arm, but with no replay challenges allowed at the time, the call stood. Bases loaded, 2 outs. And now, walking up to the plate, Paul Konerko, the White Sox best player, ready to seize the moment.
Konerko up, and he rips one into left. Konerko, grand slam!
The White Sox now held a 6-4 lead, and the crowd was electric. Every fan on their feet, ready to see their team move within 2 wins of a championship. Chicago cruised through the 8th with a quick 1-2-3 inning, and then they handed the ball to their hard-throwing rookie closer Bobby Jenks to finish the job in the 9th. Baseball has a weird way of writing drama, and this game would not end without some. Jenks got 2 outs but also allowed 2 base runners. With 2 on and 2 out, pinch hitter Jose Vizcaino stepped to the plate and delivered the biggest hit of his career.
Vizcaino, a base hit to left. 1 run scores. Here comes Burt. Throw home. Safe, and the game is tied. Vizcaino delivers.
It was only a matter of inches, but the game was now tied. The White Sox escaped the inning and now had a chance to walk it off. The tension was thick, the rain still falling. Then stepped in Scott Podsednik, the unlikeliest of heroes. In 507 regular season at-bats, he hadn't hit a single home run. Although, in the cold, wet, bitter conditions, Podsednik had the biggest moment of his life.
Podsednik hits one to deep right center field. Back at the wall. This ball is gone. Podsednik goes deep. And the White Sox win it 7-6.
It was a chilly October night in Detroit. Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. The Tigers, a team that hadn't had a winning season in over a decade, were now just 1 win away from doing the impossible and reaching the World Series. Nobody saw this coming. Just 3 years earlier, they'd lost 119 games, one of the worst seasons in baseball history. But under new leadership, a young core, and a clubhouse built on second chances, the Tigers had clawed their way back to the brink of greatness. Standing in their way were the Oakland A's, a scrappy, fearless team that had powered its way through the regular season, but down 3-0, their margin for error was gone. The A's got the scoring going early with a Milton Bradley RBI double. Bradley was in scoring position, but trouble struck when he hurt himself running on a foul ball. He almost left the game, limping, and clearly not moving the same. Ultimately, he decided to stay in. He likely wouldn't have scored on a normal base hit, but a not-so-smart Tigers fan gave Oakland some unexpected help. On a hit down the line, a fan reached over and interfered. It was ruled a ground rule double. Instead of having to hobble home to potentially beat a throw, Bradley could now casually walk home. And after 1 inning, it was 2-0 A's. In the 4th, Jay Payton got a hanging pitch and launched it over the wall, extending the A's lead to 3. A's starter Dan Herron was in cruise control through the first 4 innings, allowing just 2 hits and looking sharp. But in the 5th, everything started to unravel. A defensive miscue that should have been an out opened the door. Curtis Granderson took advantage and ripped a clutch double to get the Tigers on the board. Then Craig Monroe followed that up with a liner into left that barely snuck in. Suddenly, the Tigers were right back in it. Now a 1-run game. On the first pitch of the bottom of the 6th, Maglio Ordonez tied it up.
The 6th. A bullet into left field. We're tied.
In the bottom of the 7th, the Tigers loaded the bases with 1 out. Oakland, with their backs against the wall, made a bold move, turning to their 22-year-old closer, Houston Street. It was a risky call, but this was the biggest moment of the game and the series for them.
Not that many times that you will see a closer in this type of situation, but this is not just any game.
On the ground, this could be 2. Chavez, the throw, in time. And Street gets the double play.
The A's had escaped disaster. In the bottom of the 8th, Street stayed in the game, and he was lights out. 3 up, 3 down. So Oakland stuck with him into the 9th. Even though this was far beyond his typical workload, they trusted their young closer to keep it tied. Street started the 9th strong. A flyout, then a lineout. 2 quick outs. One more and the A's would bring it to extras, but now the heart of Detroit's order was coming up. Craig Monroe singled. Placido Polanco, on the very next pitch, singled again. That brought up Maglio Ordonez. For over a decade, the Tigers were baseball's forgotten team, a revolving door of past their prime veterans and unproven youngsters, buried in the standings year after year. Nobody expected anything from them. By 2006, something had changed. A new energy had taken over Detroit, and at the center of it was a man who'd been counted out just as much as the team he now carried. Maglio Ordonez had once been the heartbeat of the White Sox lineup as one of baseball's most complete hitters. But in 2004, everything changed. A devastating knee injury sidelined him for most of the season, and when he hit free agency, teams saw nothing but risk. Nobody wanted a 31-year-old outfielder with a bad knee who wouldn't even be ready for opening day. So, with his career on the line, Ordonez did the unthinkable. He flew to Austria for experimental shock therapy, a last-ditch effort to save his career. It sounded desperate, maybe even delusional, but somehow it worked, and he returned way ahead of schedule. Most teams didn't trust this, except the Tigers, who took a gamble and brought him in. And now, just 2 years later, Ordonez had resurrected his career and brought himself the chance to deliver the Tigers to their first trip to the World Series in over 2 decades. As he stepped up to the plate, the crowd roared. 2 on, 2 out, bottom of the 9th. One swing could erase years of heartbreak, both for a franchise and for a man who refused to give up. It didn't happen quietly. Controversy, relocation, and a heartbroken fan base in Montreal all led to the birth of the Washington Nationals. At the center of that fresh start was the very first draft pick in team history, a local kid from Virginia who would come to define the franchise, Ryan Zimmerman. He was more than the most talented player on the roster. He quickly became the face of the Nationals and an essential voice in shaping what the team would become. For their first 3 seasons, the Nationals played in RFK Stadium, a football venue that never truly felt like home. But behind the scenes, something bigger was rising on the banks. Nationals Park. Zimmerman became a key figure in the stadium's promotion, offering player perspective, representing the franchise publicly, and helping connect the new ballpark to fans who would soon fill it. In 2008, Washington finally got it, its first true baseball stadium. Opening night was unlike anything the city had seen. Major League Baseball made a one-off game that was not part of a traditional series between the Nationals and the Braves on Sunday Night Baseball. They brought out all the dramatics. Former President George W. Bush stepped onto the mound to deliver the first pitch. In the first inning of baseball at Nationals Park, the home team fed off the electricity in the air. Christian Guzman got a single on the very first pitch the Nationals saw in this stadium. Then, with 2 outs, Nick Johnson ripped a broken bat double down the line to give the Nats their first run. And the next batter, Austin Kearns, singled to increase the lead to 2. The Braves responded in the 5th inning when Chipper Jones launched a solo homer, slicing the lead to 2-1. After that, Braves starter Tim Hudson found his rhythm. Outside of that rocky first inning, he was nearly untouchable, firing 6 straight scoreless innings and giving Atlanta every chance to steal the game. Both offenses kept putting the ball in play, but inning by inning, chance by chance, nothing broke open. As the game moved into the 9th, the scoreboard still showed the same score it had since the 5th inning, 2-1 Nationals. In the top of the 9th, the Braves ripped a double into the gap, suddenly putting the tying run in scoring position. The stadium fell quiet. They got 2 outs, but the tying run now advanced to 3rd. With tension climbing, a pitch skipped to the backstop, and just like that, the game was tied. A stadium that had been celebrating history was now holding its breath. But going into the bottom of the 9th, they needed just one person to be a hero. And who better for this moment than Ryan Zimmerman, the player who would go on to become the franchise's all-time leader in hits and home runs, the cornerstone who would help deliver a World Series title to Washington 11 years later. On this night, in the very first game in the Nationals' new home, he had a chance to make his mark on history. A chance to show fans exactly who he was. A chance to create a moment that would be remembered for years to come.
Spin, swing and a drive left center field, going, and gone! Goodbye! The Z-Man has done it again!
In sports, some legends are built over years of unforgettable moments, while others are born in a single magical season. CC Sabathia spent only half a season with the Milwaukee Brewers, but in those few months, he became a Milwaukee sports legend. At the 2008 trade deadline, the Brewers made a bold move to acquire him, a gamble that would go down as one of the greatest one-year rentals in baseball history. Sabathia delivered instantly, going 11-2 with a staggering 1.65 ERA over 17 starts, carrying Milwaukee through a surprise playoff push. But everything came down to the final day of the season. The Brewers needed a win to clinch the wild card, and standing in their way were the Chicago Cubs, owners of an NL Best 97 wins. It was the toughest matchup imaginable, yet Milwaukee still had hope, because on only 3 days of rest, they put Sabathia back on the mound. The Brewers got into trouble early in that game, when, after a bloop single, Prince Fielder let a ground ball go right through his legs. Sabathia, after this, gave his team a great chance to get out of it, as he generated a perfect double play ball, but the runner was just safe by a few inches. 1-0 Cubs. After this inning, Sabathia retired 9 batters in a row, and 15 of the next 16 batters. He was unhittable. Unfortunately, the Brewers couldn't put together any offense of their own, and going into the 7th, it was still 1-0. This was the moment the Brewers finally woke up, and swung the momentum back in their favor.
Swinging a drive to the gap in right center. Johnson on the run, won't get there. Base hit, splits the outfield. Durham to second and holding.
Durham's blast cracked the game open. After his big double, Prince Fielder was intentionally walked, and J.J. Hardy followed with a walk of his own to load the bases. And with 2 outs, future Brewers manager Craig Counsell stepped in and drew another walk, forcing in a run to tie the game. In the 8th, Sabathia was electric. He struck out the first 2 Cubs he faced, then capped the inning with an unbelievable barehanded grab to get the final out. 3 up, 3 down again. CC was refusing to let their season slip away. Now, the offense had to answer. They needed one swing to give their workhorse a chance at history. And that's when Ryan Braun delivered one of the most iconic moments in Brewers history.
And there's a drive to the left field. This is hit well, and it's gone! Ryan Braun! A 2-run home run! The Brewers take the lead!
The stadium absolutely erupted. This might have been the loudest moment Miller Park had ever witnessed. Heading into the 9th, Sabathia had already thrown 107 pitches. The Cubs had up the top of their order. He was exhausted, running on pure adrenaline. But if there was ever a moment for an ace, this was it. There was no one else Milwaukee wanted on that mound except CC Sabathia. Sabathia got the first out, but then allowed a hit, bringing Derek Lee to the plate as the go-ahead run. But with the season on the line, Sabathia did what he'd done all year. He delivered, firing a perfect pitch to get Lee to roll over.
A chance here, Durham to Hardy, to first, in time! Yes! The Brewers win! Yes! Sabathia, a complete game!
This was the final game CC Sabathia would ever pitch as a Brewer in this ballpark. But the legacy he carved that afternoon will live in Miller Park forever. His dominance, his will, and the way he dragged Milwaukee into October turned this game into something bigger than a season finale. To this day, it remains the greatest game ever played in this stadium. Citizens Bank Park has seen its share of unforgettable moments. Towering home runs, playoff walk-offs, and October chaos. But one game stands alone that became part of Philadelphia sports mythology. Game 5 of the 2008 World Series. A game so wild, it took 2 nights to finish. A game played through wind, rain, and controversy that erupted in the city. And in the end, it delivered something Philadelphia had waited 25 years to feel again. The Phillies entered Game 5 with a 3-1 series lead over the Rays. And on the mound, the matchup couldn't have been more compelling. Both teams sent out 2 24-year-old all-star left-handed aces. For Tampa Bay, it was Scott Kazmir, and for Philadelphia, it was the brilliant and composed Cole Hamels. Cole was the postseason hero so far, with an undefeated record in the playoffs to this point, and he had a 1.55 ERA. Hamels set the tone immediately, retiring the Rays in order, in a dominant first inning. And when the Phillies came to bat, the Citizens Bank Park crowd was already shaking the stadium. The noise, the pressure, the moment. It all started to get to Kazmir. 2 walks and a hit by pitch loaded the bases for Shane Victorino, one of the most clutch hitters in that Phillies lineup.
Line drive down the left field line. Victorino delivers 2. Phillies strike first.
In the 4th, the Rays got them back. Evan Longoria singled to score a run and make it 2-1, but Hamels was unfazed and generated a double play on the next at-bat to escape. After this frame, the game's elements started to change everything. The sporadic rain started picking up, and it was super windy. On what would have been a routine pop-out, one of the best defensive shortstops, Jimmy Rollins, lost the ball in the wind. Although the situation looked dangerous, it didn't matter, because Chase Utley made the first of his several clutch defensive plays. He started a smooth 4-3 double play that instantly erased the threat. Right after that, the weather went from a sprinkle to an all-out downpour. Sheets of rain hammered the field, yet Hamels kept battling, striking out the next hitter in the rain. And in the bottom half, Tampa Bay somehow survived 3 brutal pop-outs, each one twisting and sliding through the storm. Then came the 6th inning. BJ Upton reached on a tough chopper up the middle and immediately swiped second base. Moments later, Carlos Pena drove him in, bringing Tampa Bay right back into the game. Hamels escaped the 6th without surrendering anymore, but the conditions at this point were too much to play through.
Tonight's game has been suspended. It will be resumed when I believe that weather conditions are appropriate.
So, the greatest game in Citizens Bank Park history will be continued on the next night.
They are ready in Philadelphia for the bottom of the 6th inning as we resume Game 5 here tonight.
With the game being played on the next night, that meant no more Scott Kazmir and no more Cole Hamels. So Grant Balfour was in for Kazmir, and Cole Hamels' spot in the lineup, which was due to lead off, was now in the hands of great pinch hitter Jeff Jenkins. Jenkins, a 33-year-old veteran with 11 seasons under his belt, was playing in his first postseason, and so far, he hadn't recorded a single hit. But that morning, he got the word he would be leading off when the game was resumed. And for a player who planned to retire after the season, he knew this could very well be the final at-bat of his career. Jenkins stepped in, fully aware of what this moment meant. One last chance. One final swing that could define everything. He was ready for it.
Jenkins hits it in the air to right center field. At the wall. Extra bases for Jenkins to start the inning.
After Jenkins' double, a bloop single from Jason Worth gave the Phillies the lead. That lead didn't last long. In the very next half inning, Rocco Baldelli answered with a towering home run, tying the game and silencing the bank. After the homer, the Rays got a runner on second and the go-ahead run in scoring position. And with 2 outs, the stage was set for one of the smartest, most instinctive plays in baseball history. On a well-placed, slow infield single, Chase Utley made a play that only he saw coming, an all-time heads-up moment that changed everything.
Has no play at first, throws home, and out is the call to end the inning.
From this point, the Phillies were fired up, and now had all the momentum. Pat Burrell, who was 0 for 18 going into the series so far, was due to lead off, and he quickly went into the clubhouse trying to reset himself. This was when Jimmy Rollins came in and fired him up.
That's a mission. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who you are. I want to see 5 show up.
Throw behind the run. This one hit into center. Burrow got a lot of it. Upton will watch it go off the wall. And Burrow will dig into second with a leadoff double.
All the Phillies needed was one hit, and Burrow delivered. And then Pedro Feliz came up, and he was ready to be the next hero.
And a ground ball up the middle, base hit. Pedro Feliz delivers.
The Phillies held a 4-3 lead going into the 9th. All of their hopes for a championship rested in the hands of one man, the man they trusted all year, Brad Lidge. He was perfect in all save opportunities for the season. He needed just one more to cap off the magical season.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
2 nights, 2 great teams, brutal weather, and a cast of unsung heroes who rose to the moment. It all built towards one of the greatest reliever seasons in baseball history, ending in absolute perfection. After 28 long years without a pro sports championship in Philadelphia, the Phillies finally delivered, and they did it on their home field in front of a city that had waited a generation. The Rays were on the losing end of the last game, but 3 years later, they had their moment to create a historic game. It was game 162 of the 2011 season. If the Rays won and the Red Sox lost on this night, the Rays would make the playoffs. Although, when you look at how we got here, it makes the game even more special. At the start of September, the Rays were 9.5 games back of the Red Sox for the AL wildcard. The Red Sox led MLB in runs scored and appeared untouchable. Even if their bats cooled, the depth and talent of their roster made a collapse seem virtually impossible. But the Rays kept inching closer every chance they got. They'd won 7 of 8 against the Red Sox that month. And every time the Rays surged, the Red Sox seemed to find a new way to collapse. The race continued to tighten till the point that they were tied with 1 game left. Everything came down to the final day of the season. The Red Sox were facing the 70-win Orioles. The Rays were staring down the 97-win Yankees, and 3 scenarios were possible for the last day. A Rays loss and a Red Sox win meant the Red Sox would clinch the wild card. If both teams won or both teams lost, they would meet for a 1-game decider. A Rays win combined with a Red Sox loss would crown the Rays the wild card outright. The Rays insisted that they could only control what happened inside Tropicana Field, but very quickly, the scoreboard became impossible to ignore. Ben Zobrist, normally a reliable defender, made a brutal error to allow the Yankees to score their first run. Then Mark Teixeira blew open the game.
High drive, deep to left, there it goes, see ya! A grand slam, Mark Teixeira!
Any flicker of hope the Rays carried into that night evaporated. In a game they absolutely had to win, they were already buried. Meanwhile, in Baltimore, the Red Sox grabbed control when Dustin Pedroia launched a go-ahead home run to make it 3-2 in the 5th. At almost the exact same moment, like the baseball gods were syncing their timeline, Teixeira struck again, homering to extend New York's 6-0 lead. And an inning later, Andrew Jones homered to make it a 7-run lead for the Yankees. Both games were heading into the 7th inning, with the Red Sox up 3-2 and the Rays down 7-0. The Rays throughout this time had runners on and countless opportunities to score almost every inning, but couldn't get it done. This continued into the bottom of the 8th, when Johnny Damon got the Rays rally started with a base hit. This was followed up by a Ben Zobrist double and a hit by pitch to load the bases. Then Sam Fuld walked to finally break the scoreless drought, and another hit by pitch scored the second run of the inning. BJ Upton made it 3 with a sac fly, but that also made it 2 outs. Now, up to the plate for the Rays was Evan Longoria, and he turned this into a whole new ballgame.
And there it is! Long drive! Deep to left! Gone! Longoria hits a long one!
The Rays held the score at 7-6 going into the bottom of the 9th. They had 3 chances to try and tie the game and continue their season. First, Ben Zobrist flew out. Then, Casey Kochman grounded out. Now the Rays were down to their last chance. Pinch hitter Dan Johnson. Johnson only had 1 home run and 10 hits all season. But in baseball, a hero can come in any form.
Johnson hits it down to right field line. That ball's going to be fair and gone!
The Rays had tied the game in a miracle comeback. The Rays and Yankees shared some good pitching and defense, and the game was still tied heading into the 12th. The Yankees got a runner on third with no outs, and Evan Longoria made a clutch, instinctual play to get him out and elude the threat, and the Rays escaped the jam. The game was still tied. Now on to the bottom half. In between innings, the Red Sox, who were 1 out away from winning the game, allowed back-to-back hits, and the game was tied in Baltimore. Then, while BJ Upton was up to bat, Robert Andino hit a walk-off single to win the game for the Orioles. The Tropicana crowd was watching the score and erupted. BJ Upton even had to call time because it was too loud. Now, if the Rays won, they would outright clinch a playoff spot. And after Upton got out, came Evan Longoria, who had a chance to have another special moment.
2-2 and a line shot down the left field line. That ball is gone, and the Rays win it. A line drive home run by Evan Longoria, and the Rays storm the field.
In a season defined by improbable climbs, Evan Longoria's walk-off home run completed one of the greatest comebacks in baseball history, both season-long and in a singular game. This will forever be the greatest game in Tropicana Park history. On the very same night the Rays authored one of the greatest comebacks baseball has ever seen, the Cardinals quietly completed a miracle of their own. Going into September, the math was brutal. The only path to the postseason required St. Louis to own the best record in the National League for the rest of the season, while the Braves would have to collapse with the worst. It looked impossible, but pretty soon, it actually happened. The Cardinals surged, the Braves crumbled, and on the final night of the season, St. Louis officially stole the wild card, clinching a playoff berth as they won and Atlanta fell. Riding that momentum, the Cardinals shocked the baseball world. They dethroned the powerhouse 2011 Phillies, then they took down the Brewers in the NLCS, punching a ticket to the World Series. Awaiting them was a Texas Rangers team loaded with talent. The series swung back and forth until Texas emerged with a 3-2 lead and a golden chance to clinch their first World Series title on enemy soil. The series moved to Busch Stadium for Game 6, yet no one, could have envisioned what came next. What unfolded that night became a masterpiece. A game now regarded not only as the greatest game ever played at Busch Stadium, but as one of the greatest in the history of sports. Both offenses came out of the gates on fire. A leadoff walk, a base hit, and then Josh Hamilton made it 1-0 before the Cardinals even recorded an out. Then all momentum switched back to the Cardinals' side when Lance Berkman stole the lead.
And he hits one into center, back at the wall. Cardinals lead game 6, 2-1.
In the second inning, with the Rangers threatening, runners on first and second, nobody out, the Cardinals executed a perfect bunt defense. On a textbook wheel play, they not only cut down the lead runner, they somehow turned 2. In a game this tight, moments like this are often forgotten about. Yet, they're plays that ultimately swing championships. After this, Ian Kinsler ripped a double to tie the score, but it could have been much worse if the Cardinals' defense didn't convert that bunt double play. Then, in the third, St. Louis delivered another flawless double play, exactly what they needed to escape the heart of the Rangers lineup. The Cardinals' sharp defense completely flipped in the fourth inning. A weird miscommunication on this pop-up in shallow left field got the Rangers a free base. Mike Napoli took full advantage of this and lined a single that made it just inside the line by inches. The Rangers now had the lead. The bottom of the fourth brought its own defensive chaos. Michael Young knocked down a grounder with a brilliant diving stop, only for Colby Lewis to overrun first base and completely miss the bag as he received the throw. The miscue cracked the inning wide open. Lewis then walked to the next batter, and when a tailor-made double play rolled to short, it looked like Texas had a chance to escape. But the throw sailed high, all because Matt Holliday executed a perfect takeout slide, which was fully legal at the time.
That's the takeout slide from Matt Holliday, and that caused the wild throw.
Yadier Molina capitalized by driving in a run on an RBI groundout, just enough to tie the game, and it's a reminder of how thin margins were. Without Holliday's takeout slide, this wouldn't be possible. In the fifth inning, even more bizarre plays happened.
And a pop-up, which has been anything but routine tonight. Freeze, drops it!
The Rangers, of course, made them pay for this.
Here's one into left center field, and this ball's going to get down and go to the wall. Digging for third and coming around is Hamilton. And the Rangers have regained the lead. It's 4-3.
Now trailing, the Cardinals had to play with absolute precision, and Tony La Russa showed some serious managerial nerve. With a runner on third and 2 outs, he recognized who was coming up, the Rangers' 7, 8, 9 hitters. So he made a bold move. He intentionally walked the 7-hitter, Mike Napoli. Then he had his pitcher pitch around the 8-hitter, David Murphy, effectively loading the bases on purpose just to reach the pitcher's spot. Suddenly, the pressure flipped to Ron Washington. Do you pinch hit for Colby Lewis and gamble for a run, or sacrifice the scoring chance to keep your starter in the game? Washington chose to stay on course, leaving Lewis in, and Lewis went down on strikes. La Russa's risky maneuver was paying off, exactly as he envisioned. Lewis went onto the mound for the bottom of the 6th inning, and despite making some great pitches, luck was not on his side. A jammed slow roller went into no man's land for the first hit. Right after that, Matt Holliday hit a chopper that could be a double play, but was bobbled and everyone was safe. Another error in a critical moment, the 5th of this game so far. Lewis ended up walking the next batter, and his night was over. Alexi Agondo came into the game for him with the bases loaded and 1 out, and he walked Yadier Molina. Game tied again. For every defensive miscue in this game, there was an equally brilliant play to counter it. Mike Napoli delivered one of those moments, backpicking Matt Holliday at third for the second out of the inning. Holliday was furious. Adrian Beltre had his foot blocking the bag, but the ump made the right call, and he was out. Phenomenal play by Napoli. Game 6 was heading to the 7th, tied 4-4, but this is when the Rangers changed things quickly.
Fly ball into right center, back at the track, This ball is gone. High fly ball down the left field line. This ball is gone. There is a base hit into left center. Here comes Derek Holland. The throw by Jay is not in time.
The Rangers were now up 7-4 going into the bottom of the 8th inning, and were just 6 outs away from winning the World Series. Although the Cardinals kept fighting and wouldn't let them pull away.
That ball is hit in the air to left. Back at the wall. It's a 2-run game.
Critical play was the home run that Alan Craig hit. All of a sudden, you're only down 2. And from there, I think guys just felt like, well, let's go ahead and see if we can't make this thing interesting.
In the bottom of the 9th, the Rangers handed the ball to their closer, Neftali Feliz, with a 2-run lead, exactly the man you wanted with the World Series on the line. Feliz had been an All-Star and Rookie of the Year in 2010, and in 2011, he was every bit as dominant. If Texas could script the moment, this is what they'd script it for. Under normal circumstances, Texas would also tighten its defense for the final frame. Andy Chavez later shared that he expected to take the field after pinch hitting in the top of the inning, ideally replacing Nelson Cruz, whose defense had long been a liability. But according to multiple reports, Ron Washington chose to keep Cruz in, not for strategic reasons, but because he wanted Cruz on the field for the celebration that seemed to be just 3 outs away. It was a small decision, almost an afterthought, but in a game defined by the thinnest margins, it would soon become one of the most scrutinized choices of the night. Sure enough, the inning started and Feliz looked great, striking out the first batter. But things got hard. The next batter was Albert Pujols, who lasered a double into the gap. Then Lance Berkman reached base on a walk. Feliz battled back and struck out Alan Craig to get the Rangers 1 out away from winning the World Series. Up to the plate came, well, you know his name, David Freese. His reputation in baseball history is widely known today. At this point, the Rangers had no idea the amplitude of what he was capable of. Feliz got ahead of Freese 1-2 in the count, and got the Rangers 1 strike away from winning it all. The Rangers at this point put their outfield in a very deep no doubles defense to prevent any balls from going over their heads.
And the Rangers in their no doubles defense, about 5 steps farther out than they normally would be.
Then, on the very next pitch, this happened.
Into right, well hit. Back at the wall, it's off the wall. 1 run scores. Here comes Berkman. Freese has tied it.
This triple seemed like a play that most outfielders could have got to, especially playing this deep. Nelson Cruz should not have been in the game at this point. This was supposed to be Andy Chavez out there, who was a great defensive outfielder, but now this critical mismanagement led to the game being all tied up. This aside, the Rangers got the last out of the inning. Then, in the top of the 10th, Josh Hamilton got revenge.
There's a shot into right. Back at the track. At the wall. Hamilton has gone deep. And it's 9-7 Texas here in the 10th.
So again, the Rangers were up 2, 3 outs away from winning the World Series. Now the Rangers turned to left-hander Darren Oliver, who had an opponent's batting average of 191 in the postseason. However, he was the next Rangers pitcher to fumble in the big moment, as he allowed back-to-back hits to start off the inning, and then the Cardinals made it a 1-run game on an RBI groundout. Luckily, this groundout made it 2 outs. The Rangers wisely walked Albert Pujols. Now, with Scott Feldman in the game, who had a 2.08 ERA in the postseason, they just need to get 1 single out against Lance Berkman. He got Berkman down 1-2 in the count, making the Rangers a single strike away from winning again. Yet, the Rangers couldn't get it done.
In the air to right center. This game is tied.
In the top of the 11th, the Cardinals shut down the Rangers' bats and kept the game tied, heading into the bottom half. The Rangers called for pitcher Mark Lowe to throw the 11th. Lowe had a hamstring injury and was not on the Rangers roster for the first 2 rounds of the postseason, and so far in the World Series only had 1 inning under his belt. This was a risky call, but Lowe had dreamed of this moment. He told reporters, "If you don't want to be in that situation I was in as a pitcher, you're in the wrong business." Despite that, in this hero-defining moment, Lowe was forced to face David Freese. The same guy who saved the Cardinals' season 2 innings ago was up to the plate to lead off the inning. With 1 swing of the bat, a Cardinals legend was born as David Freese forced 1 more game tomorrow night.
Freese hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
From a game that everyone wanted to attend, to a game that honestly nobody wanted to go to, it was May 13th, 2012, Mother's Day at Great American Ballpark. The Cincinnati Reds are taking on the Washington Nationals, but it looks like the game might be canceled. After fighting with the elements and a long 3.5-hour delay, the game officially began. Bronson Arroyo took the mound for the Reds, in front of what might be one of the smallest crowds in MLB history. But hey, quality over quantity, right? And the few people who did show up were absolute characters. We've got a guy casually putting a kid in a chokehold, 2 fans wearing horse masks, and someone in a squirrel mask sitting directly behind home plate. Across the field, Edwin Jackson, fresh off a complete game shutout the last time he faced Cincinnati, was dealing for the Nationals. Joey Votto came into the day 0 for 8 in his career against Jackson, and by the end of the game, that stat would become a historic footnote. Bottom of the first, Votto wasted no time. He launched a towering opposite field home run to get the scoring started. Then, in the second, 19-year-old Bryce Harper, playing in his 14th career game, slapped a single, took third on another hit, and scored on a sac fly to tie things at 1-1. Top of the third, the Nationals smacked back-to-back line drive doubles and took a 2-1 lead. Though in the bottom of the fourth, Joey Votto stepped in again.
Hit to center, pretty good. Back is Ankiel at the wall, forget it, that's gone!
The Nationals immediately grabbed the momentum back in the 5th. With 2 outs, Danny Espinosa smoked a double down the line to score 2. The Reds clawed one back on a sac fly from pinch hitter Mike Costanzo, on the very first pitch he ever saw in the majors. The 28-year-old rookie was a career minor leaguer, and this was one of his 2 career RBIs. Congratulations, Mike. Although you didn't have many moments in the majors, you helped contribute to the best game in Great American Ballpark history. Then, in the 8th, Washington tacked on another run with an Adam LaRoche single. At this point, the rain started coming down harder. The park emptied out, and the atmosphere got almost creepy. It was so quiet that you could actually hear the individual heckles echoing through the ballpark. In the bottom of the 8th, Joey Votto was already having a great game at this point. The Nationals brought in a lefty to face Joey Votto, and Votto helped the atmosphere with a double that nearly left the yard. 2 batters later, Jay Bruce hit what looked like a routine fly ball until Bryce Harper loses it in the dark, misty sky. The ball drops, and 2 runs score. Suddenly, the Nationals' lead is down to 1. In the top of the 9th, the beers must have been flowing in the stadium because the only other fans in the stadium could not stop screaming at Jesus Flores. The Reds ultimately kept the game right where it was, and it was a 5-6 game going into the bottom of the 9th inning. This was the last chance for the Reds. Ryan Hannigan led off with a ground ball single. A sac bunt moved him to second, but then, with a pop-out, the Reds fell to their final out. Drew Stubbs worked a walk, and Chris Heisey stepped in and grinded out another 12 pitch at bat, and he ultimately ended up drawing a walk. Bases loaded, 2 outs, down by 1. The stadium was nearly empty, but everyone who stayed was standing, and coming to the plate is Joey Votto. 2 home runs already, a chance to turn an ugly, rainy, forgotten ball game into a career-defining moment. The rest is history.
Hit deep center field. Hank Hill going back at the warning track. It's gone. It's gone. Joey Votto is delivered. Make it V for victory.
Joey Votto in this moment became the only player in baseball history in one game to hit 3 home runs, with one being a walk-off grand slam. Baseball's magic lies in its unpredictability. Across a 162-game season, you expect the marquee matchups, the rivalry games, the playoff chases to deliver iconic moments. Though sometimes it's the forgotten dates on the calendar that become unforgettable. This game had everything working against it. A 3.5-hour delay, a Mother's Day crowd waiting out in the rain, and a Reds team that looked dead in the water. No one in the ballpark expected history. And then Joey Votto stepped up and authored a moment that would be remembered forever. 1 year later, everything felt different. The Reds were back in October baseball. For the first time since 1992, the Pittsburgh Pirates were hosting a postseason game. 21 years of frustration, heartbreak, and empty Octobers had been packed into one ballpark. And on this night, the Pirates delivered. One player who had waited nearly as long as the Pirates faithful for a moment like this was Marlon Byrd. At 35 years old, in his 11th big league season, he finally walked into the batter's box for his first career postseason at bat, and he made it count.
Well hit to left. Deep and gone. First postseason at bat. And Marlon Byrd has put the Pirates on top.
This shot electrified the Pittsburgh crowd, and they completely got to Johnny Cueto. And in sync with that, he left one over the plate for Russell Martin to crush.
That ball's hit well to left center field. Back toward the track, and that ball is gone!
The Cueto chants grew louder and louder and never stopped. Cueto, who was known for a crazy windup with a huge rock, would never do this with runners on base. So his windup was a lot simpler. In the third inning, MVP Andrew McCutchen led off with a single. Then Marlon Byrd shot a rocket at the shortstop for another hit, and McCutchen ended up scoring on a sac fly. The bullpen had already started for the Reds, as it looked like Cueto had completely lost his composure. In the bottom of the fourth, Starling Marte smoked a line drive down the line, so hard that it drilled the left field umpire and bounced all the way into foul territory. The fans went crazy, and that moment pushed Reds manager Dusty Baker to the brink. For the third time that night, he walked to the mound, and this time, there was no saving it. Cueto's night was over. The next pitcher, Sean Marshall, got the very same treatment. And the Pirates jumped all over this.
The 3-2. Well hit. Left center field. Back toward that wall and off the wall. Marte can cruise in.
The crowd got to whoever the Reds put on the mound, and even their position players. The Reds had an opportunity to get out of the fourth inning, but Gold Glove second baseman Brandon Phillips bobbled a routine ball and was only able to get one out as a run scored. Another situation where the crowd likely got to them. The Pirates backed up their offense with some great defensive plays and all-around dominant pitching from Francisco Liriano, who went 7 strong innings, only allowing 1 run. The Pirates held a 6-1 lead and handed the 9th inning to Jason Grilli, their unexpected breakout closer. Just a few years earlier, Grilli's career had looked finished, At 32, he shredded his knee so badly that doctors weren't even sure he'd be able to walk normally again, let alone pitch. His big league future was basically written off. All he could focus on was trying to recover and trying to get his life back. But somehow, 4 years later, here he was, at 36, in 2013, fully healed, reinvented, and dominant. When nobody saw it coming, he was an all-star. And now, he had the ball with a chance to deliver Pittsburgh's first playoff victory in more than 2 decades. The entire city was on its feet, roaring for a moment they'd waited a generation to feel again. In a night of loud chants and emotion, the Pirates got it done.
To second. That's it. The Pittsburgh Pirates are on their way to St. Louis.
This is 20 years of waiting, and you're seeing it all come out in one night.
Some legends are made in a single big moment, and others build their legacy over years of excellence. Derek Jeter did both. One of the most respected players in baseball history, Jeter spent 2 decades at the heart of the Yankees dynasty, starring in moment after moment, always seemingly in the right place at the right time. In 2014, Jeter announced that he would retire at the season's end. What followed was a farewell tour unlike anything baseball had ever seen. Tributes in every ballpark, gifts, ovations, and gratitude from fans across the country. But nothing compared to what awaited on September 25th, Jeter's final game at Yankee Stadium. Even though he had spent most of his career in the old ballpark, everyone knew that this night, the new stadium would be emotional, unforgettable, and historic. It turned out to be more than anyone could have scripted. Yankee Stadium was covered in the number 2. Countless celebrities were in attendance, and all cameras were focused entirely on Jeter. For him, this was supposed to be just another game. He went through his routine, warmed up, and individually greeted each of his teammates. But when he took the field and the crowd erupted into a rolling chant of his name, the captain couldn't hold back the tears. Then, in classic baseball irony, the Orioles opened the game with back-to-back home runs. But the Yankees countered in the bottom of the first. Brett Gardner singled, and under the spotlight yet again, Jeter delivered.
Gardner goes, a drive to deep left, going back is Diaza, way back, and it's off the wall. Here comes Gardner, around third, on a double by Jeter, and it's a 2-1 game.
Moments later, he advanced on a wild pitch and scored on an error, tying the game 2-2. It's only fitting that in his final home game, Jeter helped to manufacture a run with his hustle. From there, the game settled into a tense duel. Jeter made a handful of sharp defensive plays, including a double play that reminded everyone of his best moments. In the bottom of the 7th, Jeter stepped up to the plate. With the bases loaded, he hit a sharp grounder that shortstop J.J. Hardy threw wildly into right field. 2 runs scored, and just like that, Jeter had driven in even more runs on his farewell night. The Yankees added another on a sac fly to make it 5-2, and suddenly, it felt like that might have been his final at-bat. Throughout the game, Jeter kept slipping into the clubhouse, overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. When the Yankees went quietly into the bottom of the 8th, it looked certain Derek Jeter had taken his final swing in Yankee Stadium. He ran onto the field for what would likely be the last time. His family moving down from the suite to the front row, the crowd chanting his name once more. It felt like the ending everyone expected, but destiny had other plans. The Orioles, fighting for the top seed in the American League, refused to go down quietly. Adam Jones launched a 2-run homer to cut the lead to 1. Then, down to their final out, Steve Pearce stunned the stadium with a game-tying home run. It was a disaster for the Yankees, but a silver lining for the fans. Derek Jeter would get one more chance. The bottom of the ninth began with Jose Perella singling, and a bunt moved him into scoring position. The stage was set. The crowd rose with the kind of anticipation you only feel once in a generation. Derek Jeter walked up to the plate, his final at-bat, in his final home game, with the winning run on second.
Maid deals. Base hit to right field. Here comes Richardson. Here's the throw for Marquez. Richardson is safe. Derek Jeter ends his final game with a walk-off single. Derek Jeter, where fantasy becomes reality.
This was a storybook ending written by the player who had spent his entire career crafting moments just like it. Players poured out of the dugout. Former Yankees legends lined up to greet him. Even the Orioles stood at the top step to honor the captain. A legendary career ended in the most fitting way possible. A farewell game the sport will never forget. Some games are exciting. Some are unforgettable. And then there are games that become part of a team and their city's identity. For the Kansas City Royals, that night came on September 30th, 2014. After 29 long years without a postseason game, Kauffman Stadium was finally back under the October lights. The 2014 Royals were an anomaly in modern baseball. They manufactured runs the old-fashioned way, with bunts, stealing bases, and just putting the ball in play. Nobody at the time viewed the Royals as a real threat, or even knew anything about them. They were hosting the Oakland Athletics in the American League wildcard game, a winner-takes-it-all clash to decide who moved on. What followed was one of the greatest games ever played on that field. It was the night the legend of the 2014 Royals truly began. The crowd was on the Royals' side, but the Athletics struck first, with a Brandon Moss towering two-run homer in the first. The Royals had their work cut out for them. On the mound for the Athletics was the recently acquired Jon Lester. The left-handed ace was having a career year with a 16-11 record and a 2.46 ERA, although this might have been the perfect matchup for the Royals. To say Lester was bad at holding runners on base would be an understatement. Lester in 2013 began developing issues throwing to first base. It was so bad that he stopped doing pickoff moves altogether. After April, he didn't attempt another pickoff all year. Then in 2014, Lester didn't attempt a single pickoff. Because Lester didn't throw to first, teams began to take bigger and bigger leads against him.
You think I like looking over there and seeing the guy 20 feet off the bag? Like, that's not fun for me.
The Royals, who led all of baseball with 153 stolen bases, came in ready to expose Lester's flaw. Right away, in the first inning, Nori Aoki got a great jump and stole this base on Lester. He later scored on a single into left field. At the end of the inning, a weird first and third play happened where Eric Hosmer tried to steal home and was out. In the process of sliding home, A's catcher Giovanni Soto hurt his thumb, applying the tag. Soto had started the game because he was better at controlling the run game, despite not being the everyday starter. Derek Norris came in to catch now, and he was not great against base runners. This set up an awful combination for the A's to try and combat the Royals. In the third inning, the Royals continued their small ball. Mike Moustakas led off the inning with a single. They bunted him over to second base, and then Moustakas scored on a double by Lorenzo Cain. Eric Hosmer followed that up with a bloop hit to help the Royals pull ahead 3-2. After this, neither side allowed another runner, but this was when the wheels completely fell off for the Royals pitching staff. A broken bat single followed by a walk, and starter James Shields' night was finished. Kansas City turned to 23-year-old flamethrower Yordano Ventura to face Brandon Moss, the same guy who had already burned them earlier in the game. And that decision backfired instantly.
Ventura in the air to center field and pretty well hit. Lorenzo Cain is back and has no chance.
Ventura, after this, was rattled as he struggled to find the strike zone. Ventura was pulled for Kelvin Herrera, who didn't fare much better with 2 outs. He surrendered 3 straight hits, the last of which blew the game open and stretched the A's lead to 7-3. As the game continued, Lester was dominant. At one point in the game, he retired 12 batters in a row, although Lester's fatal flaw finally got to him in the 8th inning. Following an Alcides Escobar single, he took a huge lead on Lester and swiped second with ease. Escobar came around to score on a Lorenzo Cain single, and Cain did the exact same thing, taking a massive lead and stealing another base.
The jump and the lead by Cain is just so large, there's no chance for him, even with a perfect throw like this, to get Cain.
Lester had no control of the runners on base, and they were clearly getting in his head. Lester ended up walking Eric Hosmer, and his night was over. This was not where the Royals' damage on the base paths stopped. Luke Gregerson came into the game and allowed a hit to Billy Butler to make the game 7-5. Then, Terrence Gore, one of the fastest players in baseball, came in to pinch run for him. On his first opportunity, Gore stole second base. The moment Gore swiped the bag, the crowd erupted, and Gregerson clearly felt it. His next pitch was spiked in the dirt, skipping past Norris, and just like that, the Royals had trimmed it to a 1-run game. Fast forward to the bottom of the 9th. The A's were 3 outs from closing the game, but in true Royals fashion, they dropped a bloop single and immediately summoned another speedy pinch runner, Gerard Dyson, who they bunted over to second base, and right after that, of course, Dyson does this.
There goes Dyson. Throw to third. He is safe. The tying run has moved up another 90 feet.
This baseball game for the Royals has turned half baseball game, half track and field meet.
With the tying run on third base, Nori Aoki hits a sac fly to tie the game. The game continued into extra innings. Neither team could generate anything on offense through the 10th and the 11th. In the top of the 12th, the A's embodied the small ball method themselves to manufacture a run. A leadoff walk, followed by a bunt, put a runner on second, and an RBI single scored him, putting Oakland back on top, 8-7. At the bottom of the 12th, the A's were in position yet again to close the game. They got Lorenzo Cain to ground out to start the inning. Next up was Eric Hosmer, who hit a deep fly ball to left center field, and chaos followed.
Gomes is back, and so is third, and the ball is off the wall. Hosmer around second. He's on his way to third, standing.
The tying run is now 90 feet away, and the Royals do Royals things by getting this very weak infield single to tie it up. Shortly after this, Jason Hamill entered the game with 2 outs. In this 2-out situation, everyone is expecting Christian Colon to steal second base and get into scoring position. The A's didn't want the winning run in scoring position, but Colon was getting in their head. Hamill attempted pickoffs, a step-off, and made quick deliveries to keep Colon honest at first. Hamill was able to get ahead in the count on Salvador Perez, 1-2, but instead of focusing on the batter and getting the last strike, he decided to do a pitch out, which did not go as planned.
They pitched out and off the glove of Derek Norris.
The A's knew it was coming, yet at the same time, they were so worried and over-anxious that by the time it came to execute it, Norris couldn't hang on to the ball. Now, the winning run is on second base, and this is all the Royals needed.
Pass third into left field. The Kansas City Royals are walking off into the ALDS.
This game was truly a masterpiece, showing the old school way to win. The Royals didn't win with the long ball like you see today. Instead, they They manufactured every run by stealing, bunting, or putting the ball into play. In this game, the Royals stole 7 bases. It was a wild comeback, and one that truly showcased that different style of winning that 2014 Royals squad brought to the game. Just 4 days after the Royals' wildcard win, an iconic game took place at Camden Yards. Camden Yards is one of the sport's older ballparks, and filled with history. However, Game 2 of the 2014 ALDS is arguably the most memorable of them all. The pitching matchup was Wei-Yin Chen for the Orioles versus maybe the best pitcher in the game at the time, Justin Verlander. Both pitchers coasted through the first few innings, until the bottom of the third. The Orioles offense got something going.
Got a chance to score. There he goes. That ball's driven right field. Hunter turns and watches this one go. A home run. Markakis.
That homer lit up the Camden Yards crowd, although the energy didn't last long. The Tigers had the heart of their order coming up to start the fourth, and they wasted no time flipping the momentum. Torrey Hunter opened with a single, and Miguel Cabrera followed by just missing a home run off the wall in the deepest part of the park. Victor Martinez then drove in Hunter with a single, and then the Tigers completely blew the game open.
Going well, and that ball's hit high and deep left field. J.D. Martinez goes deep again. Here is Nick Castellanos. He swings at the first pitch. That ball's got some carry. Markakis looks up, and there she goes.
Back-to-back homers gave the Tigers a 5-2 lead, and Chen's day ended shortly after this. Moving forward to the bottom of the fourth, with a full count and 2 outs, J.J. Hardy delivered a very clutch RBI single to cut the lead to 2. The Tigers' heart of the order came up again in the fifth, with Miguel Cabrera, the reigning 2-time MVP, stepping to the plate. But Ryan Flaherty saved the day, making a fantastic diving stop and turning it into a clutch double play. This was one of those forgotten plays that quietly ended up making a huge difference in the end. The game stayed 5-3 all the way until the 8th inning, when the Tigers finally built some momentum. After a walk and a single by Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez ripped a double to dead center. 1 run scored easily, but the Tigers waved Cabrera home too, and, well, he was gunned down at the plate on a perfect relay. Detroit's lead grew to 3, but once again, Cabrera's lack of speed cost them a bigger opportunity. This play reignited both the Orioles and the Camden Yards crowd. In the bottom of the 8th, Adam Jones got things started by getting hit by a pitch. Nelson Cruz followed with a single, and Steve Pearce lined a base hit into right field, scoring 1. Another walk loaded the bases, and now up was the Orioles' 7th hitter, Ryan Flaherty, who'd been hitless all game. The Orioles didn't like his chances, so they called in a pinch hitter with Delman Young. Young was once a hero in Detroit, and he was a key piece of the Tigers' 2012 World Series run, winning ALCS MVP and delivering countless clutch moments. Now, in the postseason, he had a chance to get revenge on the team that had recently released him, in front of an electric crowd, ready for magic.
Young swings, line drive, that is down and to the wall. Cruz is in, Pearce is in, Hardy around third, he's going to try to score, and safe! The Orioles have the lead!
It was the very first pitch Young saw off the bench, and he made it count. What a hit, and the thrilling bang-bang play at home, where Hardy just snuck his hand in at the plate, was what gave the Orioles the lead. J.D. Martinez on this play bobbled the ball as it came off the wall. This little bobble ended up being the difference between the Orioles taking the lead and it being a tied game. With the lead in hand going into the 9th, the Orioles turned to dominant closer Zach Britton. He did what he does best, retiring all 3 Tigers in order. The Orioles had pulled off the comeback, capped by a breathtaking 4-run bottom of the 8th. Delman Young emerged as the unsung hero, delivering a moment Orioles fans will remember forever. It's been almost a decade since the 2014 NLCS, and it's rarely mentioned among baseball's greatest playoff battles. But it should be. The series brought together two powerhouse franchises that had dominated the National League for the previous 4 years. The Giants, NL champions in 2010 and 2012, and the Cardinals, winners in 2011 and 2013. Both teams were loaded with talent and playoff experience, so Game 5 was set to be a classic. The Giants held a 3-1 lead, sending postseason legend Madison Bumgarner onto the mound. Opposing him was Cardinals ace and perennial playoff performer Adam Wainwright, two legends of October, facing off with the NL pennant on the line. The game started off with a first inning double play courtesy of Pablo Sandoval, which was very satisfying to watch. From there, both Wainwright and Bumgarner carved through the opposing lineups through the first 2 innings. In the 3rd inning, Bumgarner ran into a bit of command trouble, walking 2 of the first 3 hitters. Then, John Jay ripped a liner into left, a ball Travis Ishikawa misplayed, allowing the game's first run to score. This wasn't entirely surprising. Ishikawa had played just 4 games in left field all season, and before that, only 3 of his previous 276 career games had come in the outfield. Injuries had forced him into a new role, and in this big game, the ball inevitably found him. Luckily, the Giants didn't stay behind for long. In the bottom of the 3rd, rookie Joe Panik answered right back, turning on a pitch and crushing just the 2nd home run of his career to put the Giants up 2-1. That lead didn't last long either. In the top of the 4th, Matt Adams answered with a solo shot to tie the game once more. 2 batters later brought the number 8 hitter, 3rd string catcher Tony Cruz. Cruz had just 1 home run all season and was hitting 120 since August 7th. Nonetheless, in games like this, it never seems to matter whether you're a superstar or a role player. Anyone can deliver a moment that flips everything.
What he did defensively, here's Cruz, replacing Yadier Molina and A.J. Pierzynski, and the Cardinals lead it 3-2.
Many expected to be a pitcher's duel initially, turned into an unexpected slugfest. But after the 4th inning, the game turned back into the showdown everyone anticipated. From the bottom of the 4th through the bottom of the 8th, Wainwright and Bumgarner locked in, combining to retire 22 straight hitters and completely shutting the offenses down. After the dominant start from Wainwright, the Cardinals turned to their next weapon for the bottom of the 8th, the funky side armor, Pat Neshek.
They brought in Pat Neshek, watching him all year, unhittable.
The Giants had their pitcher's spot due up to start the inning, so they called for a pinch hitter, Michael Morse. Morse missed the last month of the season and was not on the roster for the wild card game and the first round, but now he had an opportunity.
He has this just powerful presence, and you're just you believe he can do it.
Morse, with the game on the line, was ready for the moment.
That's hammered into left. Morse off the bench. Tie game.
But the Cardinals didn't flinch in front of the Giants' roaring home crowd. They pushed back, grinding their way to a bases-loaded 2-out threat that put the stadium on edge. San Francisco turned to lefty Jeremy Affeldt, hoping he could put out the fire and preserve the tie, and he did exactly that, stepping in to deliver under the pressure and escaping the jam unscathed.
Chopper on the infield, Affeldt to the bag himself, gets out of trouble.
Now the Giants had an opportunity to win it in the bottom half. Pablo Sandoval started the inning with another clutch single, and Brandon Belt followed with a walk. This brought up Travis Ishikawa. Ishikawa had come into the season unsure if he wanted to keep playing. He'd nearly retired that offseason, convinced his career was winding down and his passion for the game had faded.
Base hit could win this game for the Giants. What a moment for Travis Ishikawa, who was this close to calling it quits in the offseason.
Now, after contemplating if he would even play, he had a key role and opportunity to send the Giants to the World Series.
I remember right before the at-bat started, I was feeling a calmness. It was a weird, eerie calmness.
Ishikawa hits one into right. The Giants win the pennant.
Beautiful moment. I'm pretty sure I'll be cherishing watching that over and over again. Giants have made the decision for me that I'm going to continue with baseball and hold off on the retirement issue.
November 2nd, 2016. A day that two fan bases waited years for. The Cleveland Indians had not won a World Series since 1948, which was 68 years ago at this point. The Cubs had not won a World Series since 1908, which was 108 years ago as of this point.
3 generations of us here. The youngest, my grandfather, my father, his brother.
I'm 45, and he's 75.
I've waited a long time for this.
It's emotional, I'm sorry.
Through all the waiting, both fan bases had undergone heartbreak.
A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series. Reaching into the stands and couldn't get it. He's livid with a fan.
Now, under the lights of Progressive Field, in Game 7 of the World Series, one of these two teams was finally going to end the suffering, break the curse, and reclaim the title. The opportunity was finally there, and the game started with dramatics.
You get up to the plate, and it's just like, you take that deep breath, and then you lock in.
That's in the air to center. Back at the wall. It is gone. What a start. Dexter Fowler, hello.
Fowler's home run set the tone for the Cubs, and the elite Corey Kluber was rattled. The Cubs kept the pressure on, stringing together a series of hard-hit balls and jumping out to a 3-1 lead. Then, in the top of the 5th, Javier Baez took Kluber deep. And just like that, the Indians' ace was done far earlier than anyone expected. Cleveland wasted no time turning to their most dominant bullpen weapon, Andrew Miller, a reliever who would almost never enter this early under normal circumstances. Miller quickly induced a double play, but after issuing a walk, Anthony Rizzo came through again, driving in another run and stretching the Cubs' lead to 5-1. Cubs starter Kyle Hendricks was as reliable as it came, and he was dealing going into the bottom of the 5th. He got the first 2 outs, but walked a batter, and after this walk, Cubs manager Joe Maddon also decided to pull him very early.
Boy, this is an extremely quick hook.
With the decision to pull Hendricks also came the decision to pull Wilson Contreras for the veteran David Ross, who was used to catching Lester and warmed up with him that night.
Ross in to catch in what will be his final major league game as a player.
Immediately, the ball found David Ross, and it wasn't good.
And this is Ross. Has to hurry. Wild throw. And it will go into the seats.
Dang it.
Then, with 2 outs and runners on 2nd and 3rd, another difficult play presented itself to Ross.
It's Lester. Lindor bounces in. It hits Ross. A run scores. Here comes Kipnis. He's safe.
2 runs came across, and all of a sudden, it was a 5-3 game. Momentum had changed that quickly.
That's my fault.
David Ross, in the final year of his career, subbed into the game and struggled to make a few plays that he would normally convert. But today, nobody remembers it because of what he did next.
Ross flies one into center, sends Davis back at the wall, and it is gone! The 39-year-old in his final game
You can't make this up.
Can't make this up.
Ross's home run had set the tone for the Cubs, and they cruised through the 6th and 7th innings. Holding a 6-3 lead, John Lester came out for the 8th and quickly recorded 2 outs. That's when the Cubs turned to one of the most feared arms in baseball, Aroldis Chapman, tasked with a 4-out save to win it all. The first batter he faced, Brandon Geyer, lined into the gap, bringing home a run and cutting the lead to 2. And now, up to the plate, stepped Rajai Davis, a man with nothing to lose, a crowd on edge, and a chance to make history with one swing.
Drive into left. Let's go! Tie game! Rajai Davis!
I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about the curse at that moment.
It looks like we want to win the World Series, and all of a sudden, boom, it's tied in the 8th. And all I thought about is, how the fans, they've got to be miserable right now. Like, oh, here we go again.
It seemed like the Cubs were about to add another chapter to their long, tortured history of cursed collapses. The score stayed tied going into extra innings, and then all of a sudden, it stopped.
Rain getting heavier, and now the grounds crew is rolling the tarp up. The Indians and the Cubs are going to have a rain delay.
The Cubs were frustrated, but the rain delay might have been the turning point.
Jay's like meeting in the weight room.
Basically saying this is not over. We've worked too hard to let this slip away from us.
We came out and we just said it was our time.
Right as the play resumed, Kyle Schwarber singled. He was pitch ran for, and the go-ahead run advanced to second on a flyout. After Rizzo was intentionally walked, it set up the chance for Ben Zobrist to be the hero.
Zobrist stands a base hit. Cubs will take the lead.
And I looked over at Riz. He's like, hands on the helmet, like, that really just happened.
After this, Miguel Montero ripped a hit to give the Cubs a much-needed insurance run and make the game 8-6. The Cubs were 1 inning away from doing it.
Cubs on the threshold of the greatest victory in the history of the franchise.
Carl Edwards Jr. retired the first 2 batters of the inning, but the Indians weren't done yet. After a walk, Rajai Davis came through once again, delivering a clutch RBI single. The Cubs quickly went to Mike Montgomery to try and get the final out. The winning run stood at the plate. The tying run was on first. Everything was on the line. And then, in the most beautiful ending baseball could offer, the moment that would finally break a 108-year drought unfolded.
Of American sports is over, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
When we originally decided on the best game in Petco Park history, we chose Team USA versus the Dominican Republic in the 2017 World Baseball Classic. The game was amazing, and it was remembered for one of the greatest plays of this decade when Adam Jones robbed his teammate Manny Machado of a home run to help save the game for the US. But unfortunately, as we got deeper into the production of this video, we saw that other content creators were struggling with the strict World Baseball Classic copyright rules. Due to that, they would likely take this entire video down if we showed footage of this game. So instead, we settled on showing the runner-up best game from this stadium, which was Dodgers versus Padres in Game 4 of the 2022 NLDS. This series was a true underdog story. The Dodgers that year won 111 games, which is tied for the 4th most ever. They were the most stacked team by far. Yet, after 3 games, the scrappy Padres had snuck in 2 close wins and led the series 2-1, and now had a chance to clinch a ticket to the NLCS. things didn't start great for the Padres. In the third inning, Freddie Freeman ripped a double to give the Dodgers a 2-0 lead. That score remained all the way up to the 7th inning. Both starters exchanged clutch, timely pitching, and seemingly every time the Padres put good contact on the ball, the Dodgers made an amazing defensive play. It was a frustrating game so far for the Padres, and things got worse in the top of the 7th. Relief pitcher Steven Wilson lost his command and loaded the bases. A sac fly pushed the Dodgers' lead to 3, and despite the Padres battling to get out of the inning, there looked to be very little hope. In the bottom half of the inning, the Padres led off with a walk, and then Trent Grisham lined a single into center field. Trace Thompson almost made a diving stop on it like he did earlier, but was just late. That hit was just enough to give the Padres a little bit of momentum back. Austin Nola had a clutch infield single to score 1, and then the Padres put together back-to-back hits to tie things up.
Grounded towards third base, it gets by Muncy, and a fair ball down the left field line. Grisham's on his way home, he will score. Soto with a line drive into right field, that'll get down, and a base hit. Nola comes in to score, and the game is tied at 3.
The Padres crowd was going nuts, chanting, "Beat LA." The hits were finally falling, and it was anyone's game. The Dodgers got it to 2 outs, and only had Jake Cronenworth left to face. Although, Cronenworth was not ready for the inning to end there.
Cronenworth to center field! Padres take the lead! Kim is in! Here comes Soto! Off the mound! 5-3 Padres!
This 5-run inning was one of the biggest momentum shifts ever. It set the stage for a crazy final showdown. Josh Hader, maybe the best reliever in the game, came in for the 9th inning to face the Dodgers' unreal top of the lineup, Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, and Freddie Freeman. Hader didn't disappoint and struck out the side.
0-2, swing and a miss! Freeman went after a slider in the dirt, and the ball game is over! The series is over!
Despite being 22 games behind the Dodgers, the Padres got hot and upset one of the best teams in baseball history. And what a game to end the series on. We head to Minute Maid Park, Game 5 of the 2017 World Series between the Dodgers and the Astros. With the series tied 2-2, both teams understood exactly what was at stake. This was the swing game, a night that could tilt the entire series. What was supposed to be a battle of aces, former Cy Young winner Dallas Keuchel versus 3-time Cy Young winner Clayton Kershaw, instead became one of the wildest, highest scoring roller coaster games baseball had ever seen. And from the first pitch, every hitter in both lineups was locked in. But before we go any further, one thing needs to be said clearly. We know that the Astros were cheating during this season, including during this game. That fact will always hang over what happened. But even with the context, Game 5 remains one of the most chaotic and entertaining baseball games of all time. The game started off as a disaster for the Astros. Keuchel allowed a hit and then walked consecutive batters to load the bases. Then Logan Forsythe drove in 2 runs on a hit into left field. There might have been a play at the plate if Marwin Gonzalez came up with the ball too, but we'll never know. This wasn't the last defensive error for the Astros in this inning. Keuchel had Forsythe picked off, and then a bad throw from Gurriel, and they don't get him at second base. This allowed a run to walk in and score. The play was close and reviewed, but ultimately he was ruled safe, and the Dodgers took an early 3-0 lead. In the 4th inning, Austin Barnes extended the lead to 4 with an RBI single. Keuchel's game was over 1 batter later, making this the shortest home start of his career. The Dodgers offense clearly had his number. The Astros offense, on the other hand, started the game ice cold. Their first 9 retired in order, but by the time they saw Kershaw for a second time, they were a different team. Carlos Correa got the Astros offense going with an RBI double, and then with 2 on, Yuli Gurriel flipped the entire script of the game. It didn't take long for the Dodgers to get right back. 2 straight walks put 2 on for the Dodgers, and 21-year-old rookie Cody Bellinger showed why he would be a future MVP.
High fly ball into right, back at the wall, it's gone!
The Astros saw this sequence and decided they needed to do the exact same thing. With 2 outs in the 5th inning, they worked great at bats to generate back-to-back walks. Clayton Kershaw was subsequently pulled for Kenta Maeda, and then the AL MVP, Jose Altuve, tied it up.
Another 3-2 and a high fly ball, deep left center field, at the wall, tie game!
The back and forth had only just begun, and by this point, both teams were already digging deep into their bullpens. In the top of the 7th, Justin Turner came literally a foot away from putting the Dodgers back on top with a home run. It was a massive break for Houston, and the Dodgers failed to capitalize, opting to try and bunt Turner over to third, a decision that quickly backfired when he was thrown out, a questionable call to say the least. Moments later, George Springer faced a decision of his own. Instead of letting a sinking liner drop in for a clean single, he dove for it and missed. The ball skipped past him, turning what should have been 1 base into 3, and giving the Dodgers an 8-7 lead.
I know I made a bad decision there. I watched the ball go by me. That's a very lonely feeling. But then I knew that I had to at least attempt to make up for it.
High fly ball, goodbye! 1 pitch to Springer and we're tied again!
Springer didn't let the mistake linger. He responded immediately, coming right back and tying the game with 1 swing. The stadium erupted, and the Astros fed off the surge of energy. Alex Bregman followed with a single, then Jose Altuve ripped a double into the gap to push Houston back in front. Next to the plate stepped Carlos Correa, and with the crowd on its feet, he was able to turn in one of the most dramatic hits you'll ever see.
He lifts it into left, down the line, at the wall, goodbye!
The Astros surged ahead 11-8, but as you might expect, the Dodgers refused to fold. In the 8th, Jock Peterson hit a towering double, and moments later, Corey Seager followed by lining a double of his own into the gap to bring Peterson home and pull life right back to them. Brian McCann saw it and made sure to answer back.
Record for the Dodgers, here's one into right, back at the wall, it is another home run!
The drama is at an all-time high.
The Astros carried a 12-9 lead going into the 9th inning, and sent Chris Davinsky back out to try and close it. A daunting task against a Dodgers lineup this dangerous. Cody Bellinger led things off, and after the damage he'd already done, Houston chose the safe route and pitched around him, issuing the walk. Davinsky then punched out the next batter for the first out of the inning, but Yasiel Puig wasn't ready for the night to end.
That is hooked down into the corner at the wall. It's gone. It is a 1-run game.
Puig's homer was the 22nd home run of the series. This broke an MLB record, and it was only Game 5. After the home run, Austin Barnes lined a ball into center and exploded out of the box, stretching it into a double on a razor-thin play. The tying run was suddenly in scoring position, then moved to third on a ground out. At the same time, Houston was 1 out, then 1 strike away from ending the game. until Chris Taylor clutched up and continued the game.
Taylor ties it!
It's not any time to be sorry about yourself. So, okay, they tied the game, and I was like, okay, then we got to do it again.
The game remained tied at 12 as it headed into the bottom of the 10th. Kenley Jansen quickly retired the first two Astros hitters, then moved to the brink of escaping the inning. As he was one strike away, everything unraveled. He hit a batter and then walked to the next. Suddenly, the winning run was in scoring position. Houston added even more pressure by sending in a speedy pinch runner, Derek Fisher. After nearly 5 hours of chaos, every lead erased and every bullpen arm exhausted, it all came down to this. The winning run stood on second, the stadium buzzing in disbelief at what this game had already become. One swing could finally end it.
That's in the air to left. Here comes Fisher. Throw by Ethier. Astros win it in 10.
I thought Game 2 was probably the best baseball game I ever played in. I didn't think that would ever be topped.
What a journey. What a long and amazing game.
What a game.
One of baseball's newest and most expensive ballparks, Globe Life Field, home of the Texas Rangers. After years in the making, it was finally ready for its debut in the 2020 MLB season, and yet the timing couldn't have been worse. A stadium built to be filled with thousands of fans sat empty for months as the pandemic shut the sport down. The first event ever held there wasn't a baseball game at all, but a high school graduation. When baseball eventually returned, it did so without fans, and the atmosphere felt hollow. The Rangers struggled through the shortened season, finishing with the worst record in the American League, and the new ballpark never got its proper introduction. But MLB saw an opportunity. Even with Texas out of the postseason, Globe Life Field offered something rare in 2020, a state-of-the-art, neutral site venue where fans could be welcomed back in limited numbers. And then, at last, the stadium got its moment. Globe Life Field was chosen to host the 2020 World Series, and in doing so, it was rewarded with one of the greatest playoff games that the sport has ever seen. The game started off with a surge of the long ball. Justin Turner hit a home run to dead center. Then Corey Seager hit a towering shot to the upper deck in right field. This was his 8th home run of the postseason, which brought him into a tie for the MLB record for the most in a single postseason. One of the guys he was tied with was Rays' Randy Arozarena, and in the bottom of the 4th, Arozarena took sole lead of the record.
Here is a shot into right center field. This ball is back at the wall, and he's got another. And the all-time record for home runs in a single postseason with number 9.
In the 5th, the Dodgers extended their lead to 2 with a Max Muncy RBI single. He tried to advance to second on the throw and was safe at first, but then Willy Adames pulled him off of the base. A very weird play that caused an argument but wasn't overturned because of lack of evidence supporting that this was an intentional act. This ended the inning and a chance to score more for the Dodgers. In the bottom of the 5th inning, Hunter Renfroe cracked a mammoth home run to cut it to a 1-run game. Although the Dodgers got this run right back when postseason legend Kike Hernandez ripped an RBI double. In the 6th inning, with 2 men on, Brandon Lau changed the game in an instant.
And a high fly ball into left center field. Back at the wall, and is gone!
With one swing, they had their first lead. The homer didn't faze the Dodgers. They kept attacking, and in the 7th inning, they broke through again. Justin Turner collected his third hit of the night, ripping a double to put runners on second and third. The Rays responded with back-to-back strikeouts, suddenly 2 outs away from escaping the inning. Instead of pitching to him, the Rays chose to intentionally walk Cody Bellinger, setting up a matchup with pinch hitter Jock Peterson. They put a full right side shift on Jock, in the hopes that he would pull a pitch into it. Jock did just that. He turned on a pitch and smoked a rocket right into the shift, although the ball was hit so hard that it found its way through the shift, just grazing the tip of Brandon Lau's glove as he dove. Hunter Renfroe in right scooped it up, and instead of firing home, he threw to third, where Bellinger appeared dead to rights. Wisely, Bellinger turned a mistake into a moment of awareness, stopping in his tracks, ensuring the run crossed the plate before he was tagged out. A high IQ play that let the Dodgers retake the lead. The Dodgers scored their runs in a multitude of ways throughout the postseason, whereas the Rays scored their runs exclusively through home runs. The Rays up to this point in the postseason had scored 70% of their runs off home runs, which was an MLB record. Top to bottom, their lineup was locked in on the long ball. And even their 9-hitter, defensive-first outfielder Kevin Kiermaier felt the power energy and tied things up.
Here's one into right. This one is way out of here.
This home run was the 6th Rays run off a home run in this game. They had 52 out of 74 runs off home runs this postseason. It was truly an unbelievable power run. The Dodgers, for every big Rays homer, countered it with offense of their own. With it tied up in the 8th, Chris Taylor hit a double, and then, with 2 outs, Corey Seager just barely squeezed in a bloop single that gave the Dodgers back the lead, 7-6. In the 9th inning, Kenley Jansen, one of the game's premier closers, took the mound to try and seal it for the Dodgers. The Rays, for once, showed that they didn't need the long ball to create something. Kevin Kiermaier fought off a pitch and broke his bat, but the ball found the grass for a single. It wasn't as sexy as their other hits, but suddenly there was life. That brought up the top of the Rays order. Joey Wendell unfortunately lined out, giving the Dodgers their second out of the inning. Now, just 1 out away. Up was Randy Arozarena, the hottest hitter in baseball, stepping to the plate, with Brett Phillips on deck. Many expected the Dodgers to take the bat out of Arozarena's hands and issue an intentional walk.
You'd be hard-pressed to believe that the Dodgers would pitch to Arozarena with Phillips hitting behind him.
Instead, the Dodgers didn't back down. They went straight after Arozarena, choosing to challenge his power with Jansen's. Arozarena responded with a masterful at-bat, battling back from a 1-2 count and refusing to chase, eventually drawing the walk. And now, it was up to Brett Phillips. He was in the game only because he had to pinch run in the prior inning, and with only a backup catcher available left on the bench, the Rays had no choice but to stick with him. Phillips hadn't taken a single at-bat all postseason. It had been 17 days since he'd even seen a pitch, and nearly a full month since his last hit. Now, with the game on the line, he was stepping in against one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Jansen, that is into center field. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
Brett Phillips was never a star. He didn't hit towering home runs like his teammates, and under normal circumstances, he'd never be asked to swing in a moment like this. What Phillips brought was something different. He was a heartbeat in that clubhouse, and now finally, he had his big moment. It would be the only postseason hit of Brett Phillips' career, and what a hit it was. From one new ballpark to another, we head to Truist Park, which opened in 2017 as the home of the Atlanta Braves. The stadium had some great playoff memories early on, but by 2021, it looked like it might be a location for a rebuilding season and not a championship run. At the All-Star break, Atlanta sat at 46-47. To make matters worse, they lost their best player, Ronald Acuna Jr., to a torn ACL, and Marcell Ozuna, one of their top hitters, was out the season as well. With their season barely hanging on, Atlanta's odds to make the World Series dropped to a mere 1%. It felt over, and yet, instead of selling at the deadline, the Braves went all in. They reshaped their roster with a wave of trade deadline rentals. Among the Braves' starting lineup, the only two players under team control more than 2 years were Austin Riley and Ozzie Albies. So basically everyone had something to play for. This cast of overthought players fighting for a contract caught fire and became the hottest team in baseball. They dominated their way through the playoffs, all the way to the World Series. Waiting for them was the Astros. This was their third World Series appearance in 5 years, and they were big favorites. But through 3 games, it was Atlanta that held the edge with a 2-1 series lead. Now, in Game 4 at Truist Park, with the crowd roaring and history within reach, Atlanta stood just 2 wins away from completing one of the most improbable underdog runs baseball had ever seen. Game 4 opened with an exceptionally lopsided pitching matchup. Zack Greinke versus Dylan Lee. One was a future Hall of Famer with 3,219 career innings under his belt, while the other had thrown just 4 2/3 innings in his entire major league career. And this was also his first career start. He didn't even know he'd be getting the ball until he arrived at the park that night. Braves manager Brian Snitker purposely didn't tell him so that he wouldn't be nervous the night before. This, however, wasn't one of those classic underdog stories. Lee was being used strictly as an opener. After a handful of batters, the Braves' plan was to turn the game over to Kyle Wright, who was expected to handle the bulk of the innings. And the opener experiment didn't go smoothly. Lee issued a hit and 2 walks to load the bases with just 1 out. At this point, the Braves subbed in Wright, who managed to limit the damage, allowing only 1 run on a ground out before escaping the inning. The Braves were in a hole early, but it could have been worse. In the second inning, Houston threatened again, and this time, it came from the most unlikely sources. Zack Greinke and Martin Maldonado, of all people, led off the inning with hits. The Astros had a real chance to blow the game wide open with their top of the order up. Jose Altuve ripped a ball down the line that looked destined for extra bases until Austin Riley made a spectacular stop, robbing him and saving at least a run. This followed with a groundout, and once again, the Braves escaped the danger. In the 4th inning, Jose Altuve made sure he wouldn't get robbed this time, and crushed a home run to dead center to put the Astros up 2-0. This home run was his 23rd career postseason homer, which put him second all time. Zack Greinke on the other side was dominant and tossed 4 scoreless innings for the Astros.
Seemed like we were a little slow coming out of the gate, but I think being at home rallies us to keep going.
The Braves finally broke through in the 6th. Eddie Rosario, one of Atlanta's key trade deadline additions and their hottest hitter all postseason, sparked a rally by ripping a double. Moments later, Rosario came home on an Austin Riley base hit. Following this, in the 7th inning, the Braves turned to Tyler Matzek to hold the score. He had been dominant all postseason, but his journey to this moment was anything but ordinary.
2015, I was with the Rockies as starter, got the yips, basically got sent down in 15 and released in 16. Went and played some indie ball in 2018 and 2019, and the Braves picked me up.
Giving up on your dream. I'm not going to be surprised if there's a movie that's going to be made out about Tyler Matzek.
Matzek was now back on the biggest stage, and he delivered a brilliant inning to keep the game where it was. This was just what they needed, and Atlanta finally had momentum. Now all they needed was one swing to change everything. and stepping up to the plate was Dansby Swanson. Swanson grew up in Georgia and had been dreaming of a moment to produce for his hometown team on the biggest stage. Now, he finally had his chance.
Here's one into right. Back at the wall. The game is tied. Home run, Swanson.
Following Swanson was pinch hitter Jorge Soler, another trade deadline addition. He was a player resurrected by opportunity. With injuries reshaping the Braves' outfield, Soler had found a new home in Atlanta and was in the middle of a massive postseason run. Now, with the game tied, he stepped in with a chance to create a career-defining moment.
Driven in the air to left. Back at the wall. It is gone. Back to back. Braves take the lead.
Jose Altuve did everything he could to keep Houston alive. In the bottom of the 8th, he put a perfect swing on a pitch that looked destined for the gap. Another sure double. Until Eddie Rosario tracked it down and made a brilliant play. For the second time in the game, Altuve was robbed of extra bases by Atlanta's defense. Will Smith took the ball and stunned the heart of the Astros order to secure the win. It was a complete team effort, fueled by a team of guys with something to prove. With many great games and shocking upsets during this postseason run, this stands out as the defining victory of their season. The best game in loanDepot Park history was without a doubt the 2023 World Baseball Classic finale between the US and Japan. We would have loved to give this game a proper recap. However, as we said earlier, the World Baseball Classic doesn't like their footage being on YouTube. The game had everything. Trey Turner capped off his historic tournament run with another homer. Kyle Schwarber hit a towering shot, and we got to see Munetaka Murakami and Kazuma Okamoto come up clutch as the guys who would later headline 2026's international free agency. The game ultimately set up Japan taking a 3-2 lead heading into the 9th, where they brought in Shohei Ohtani for the save. With 2 outs and the game on the line, he faced the US captain and his own teammate, Mike Trout. It was one of the best at-bats ever, and ultimately Ohtani struck him out to win the game. Unfortunately, loanDepot Park doesn't have any games even close to this to warrant a runner-up recap for this section, so we're leaving this as is. This section was entirely finished before we decided to scrap it due to the strict copyright rules that World Baseball Classic has. If you'd like to see the full section that we weren't able to post, and Petco Park's World Baseball Classic game, they'll be available on our other social media. "19 years. That's how long it's been since the Twins last won a postseason game. A lot can happen in 19 years. If you were a Twins fan born in 2004, you would have grown up, graduated high school, and spent a year in the real world without ever seeing a single playoff win. Entire Hall of Fame caliber careers had come and gone during that stretch. Since moving into Target Field in 2010, the Twins still hadn't won a single postseason game there, and the losses piled up. The drought became something impossible to ignore. 18 straight playoff games were lost by the Twins, and as the Twins began to host the Blue Jays in Game 1 of the 2023 Wildcard Series, you could feel the pressure looming over them.
Still something hanging over their head. They've lost 18 straight games in the postseason. That's the longest streak in North American sports history.
Twins fans had waited forever with a level of patience few outside Minnesota could truly understand. One person who did understand was their rookie shortstop, Royce Lewis. The first overall pick in the 2017 draft was a rising star almost immediately. By 2019, he was ranked the 5th best prospect in all of baseball. But this was halted. With no minor league season in 2020, his development stalled. In 2021, just as he was ready to break through, Lewis tore his ACL before spring training and lost the entire year. He finally reached the majors in 2022, only to tear his ACL again after just 12 games. 2 catastrophic injuries, and 3 lost years. Now, in 2023, at 24 years old, Lewis has made a comeback. Over the final 2 months of the season, he played like the star everyone once believed in. But after everything he'd endured, the 19-year drought and 18-game playoff losing streak felt like a drop in the bucket. It felt like just another game.
Does not go. And that one is drilled deep to left field. Going back Varsho. Turning. Looking. See ya. A 2-run home run for Lewis. And just like that, the Twins are up 2-0.
Lewis had set the tone and showed everyone what was in the past. The game remained 2-0 going to the bottom of the third when Royce Lewis stepped up again.
A swing and a fly ball, right center field, deep, Springer back. He will turn, back it goes, gone! Unbelievable! Royce Lewis, welcome to October baseball. 2 at-bats, 2 home runs. This kid is amazing!
The game was basically 3-0 Royce Lewis at this point. The 3 runs off his bat were really all the Twins needed to win this game. Twins starter Pablo Lopez was dominant all game long, and there were some great defensive plays to back him up, like when Michael Taylor made this full extension diving catch, or this Max Kepler catch against the wall. Even when they made errors, it was complemented with great defense to make up for it. In the 4th inning, Jorge Polanco missed a slow roller, and Carlos Correa, backing him up, made a great throw home to prevent a run from scoring. This was the type of play you'd only see out of a player like Correa. The Blue Jays finally broke through in the 6th when Kevin Kiermaier drove in their first run, cutting the deficit to 3-1 and ending Pablo Lopez's night. With 2 runners now on and momentum swinging, Toronto had a real chance to tie the game or take the lead. Louis Varland was brought in, and on just the 2nd pitch he threw, Matt Chapman absolutely crushed the ball. It carried and kept carrying. Was this the start of yet another heartbreak? Then Michael A. Taylor raced it down, reached the wall, and made a leaping catch, stealing the extra base hit and saving multiple runs. This was a moment of hope for the Twins. Through the 7th and 8th innings, the Twins bullpen took care of business. Then it set up for one of the most electric closers in baseball, Johan Duran, to finish it off.
And the pitch, ground ball right side, diving stop Solano, to his feet, beats Duran, steps on the bag, and the Twins win the game! Twins win! Twins win! The Minnesota Twins win a playoff game!
They had done it. The curse was finally over. With great defense, pitching, and Royce Lewis, the Twins had brought Target Field something that had never happened before.
I cried twice, both times when Royce Lewis hit a home run.
Citi Field, which opened in 2009, had never hosted a series-clinching win. The 2024 Mets looked like the team destined to change that. They were baseball's classic October surprise, a team that defied expectations and caught fire at exactly the right moment. In the NLDS, they ran into the Phillies, owners of the 2nd-best record in baseball, stacked with talent and postseason experience. It was a collision of the team everyone expected to be there against the team that nobody saw coming. And yet, the red-hot Mets seized a 2-1 series lead and were home for Game 4, 1 win away from writing history at Citi Field. Phillies starter Ranger Suarez was really tested this game. He loaded the bases in both the 1st and 2nd innings, but his trademark calm demeanor helped him through it. With 2 outs and the bases loaded, he made big pitches to escape both innings unscathed and kept the game scoreless. He was the first pitcher in MLB playoff history to allow 4 hits and 2 walks in the first 2 innings without allowing a run. He was really cutting it close. On the other side was Jose Quintana, who was quite sharp, keeping the Phillies lineup completely off balance. He allowed just 2 hits all night. One came in the 4th, a double by Nick Castellanos that put runners on 2nd and 3rd. Then Alec Boehm stepped in, barely made contact, and a harmless hit off the bat was bobbled and became the game's first run. In the bottom of the 4th, the Mets again put 2 runners on, and this time, Ranger Suarez was pulled. But again, the Mets couldn't capitalize, and the Phillies somehow escaped. In the 6th inning, the Mets continued to get people on base. A leadoff hit, then a hit batter, then a walk. Suddenly, the bases were loaded for the 3rd time that night. And once again, it felt like the Phillies might wiggle their way out of it. Francisco Alvarez rolled into a fielder's choice, and for a moment the door seemed to be closing. But the Phillies went to their bullpen, turning to Carlos Estevez, and stepping into the box for the Mets was Francisco Lindor, the face of the franchise and the leader of this underdog run. Watching chance after chance slip away, Lindor was not about to let this one pass. This was the moment he'd been waiting for.
Swinging a drive towards the gap in right center. It's pretty deep. It's back near the wall. It's gone. It's gone. Francisco Lindor. He may have just outdone himself. He has hit a grand slam.
From there, the Mets bullpen slammed the door shut in the 7th and 8th, handing the final 3 outs to Edwin Diaz. Just nights earlier, Diaz was in a similar position and blew the save, and the 9th began similar to his last appearance. A walk, then another. The tying run was suddenly at the plate, and Citi Field could feel the pressure. Diaz steadied and found 2 outs. Then came Kyle Schwarber, one of the most feared power hitters in the sport, a player built for moments exactly like this. One swing could erase everything, but Diaz wasn't afraid of him.
The 1-2 pitch, swung on and missed, strike 3, put it in the box.
In a game that was full of missed opportunities on both sides, the difference was the one that Francisco Lindor had capitalized on. Citi Field had finally seen a series-clinching win. Game 5 at T-Mobile Park. After 4 brutal, tightly contested games, the ALDS came down to this: 9 more innings to decide everything. Or at least that's what everyone expected. On one side stood Seattle, a franchise that had waited decades for a moment like this. A team that honestly had no October memories in this ballpark, and was looking to finally make one with their ace George Kirby on the mound. The game began, and the first action was in the 2nd inning. Josh Naylor, on a defensive, almost check swing, just got enough bat to bloop the ball for a double. Then, Naylor showed off his unique base running talent. Despite ranking in the bottom 3 percentile in sprint speed across MLB, he somehow stole 30 bases in 2025. He wasn't beating anyone with raw speed. He did it by getting elite jumps and reading pitchers perfectly. With the best pitcher in baseball on the mound, he did it again, reading him like he was a book, and he got an amazing jump to steal 3rd base.
He's amazing. He's absolutely a magician on the bases. How does he do it?
That steal put him in perfect scoring position with 1 out. Moments later, he scored easily on a sac fly. In a game against an ace like Tarek Skubal, Naylor's steal quite literally created one of the Mariners' only real chances to score. Over the next few innings, Kirby and Skubal were dominant. At one point, Skubal set a postseason record, striking out 7 batters in a row. Going into the 6th inning, it was 1-0 Seattle. To start the inning, Javier Baez finally got something going for the Tigers with a sharp hit. His hustle out of the box turned it into a double. The Mariners saw Kerry Carpenter up next, who was already 2 for 2, and decided to end Kirby's night early to counter with a left-hander, which Carpenter struggled against. But tonight, it didn't seem to matter who was on the mound against Carpenter.
1-0 fly ball right field. Deep, is it playable? Rodriguez going back, he's looking up, and it's gone! A home run!
By the 7th, Detroit had turned the game over to its bullpen, and Seattle finally began to stir. Jorge Polanco opened the frame with a single, and with 2 outs, Josh Naylor punched in another base hit, putting runners on 1st and 2nd. Seattle was looking for a spark, so they went to their bench and announced left-handed Dominic Canzone as a pinch hitter. Detroit immediately countered, calling on a lefty to pitch. And then, the Mariners pulled Canzone before he ever saw a pitch, sending up switch hitter Leo Rivas instead.
And now, the chess match begins.
It was Leo Rivas' birthday and first career postseason at-bat. Cold off the bench with the game on the line, his manager put everything on him. And Rivas delivered.
And he lines one to right field. Base hit. Here comes Polanco. Leo Rivas off the bench ties the game.
Through the 8th and 9th, both bullpens came through, and the game went into extra innings, tied at 2. In the bottom of the 10th, Victor Robles ripped a double down the line. He now presented the winning run on second, as the heart of the Mariners' order stepped in. Yet rookie Troy Melton showed no fear. He recorded 2 quick outs, then watched his manager make the smart call and intentionally walk Cal Raleigh. Melton, after this, finished the job, getting Julio Rodriguez to ground out and sent the game even deeper into the night. This game was full of clutch moments from unexpected players like Melton. The Mariners were running out of pitching options, and with the season on the line, they turned to starter Logan Gilbert on just 2 days rest. He set the Tigers down 1-2-3 in the 10th, but trouble came in the 11th. Kerry Carpenter singled for his 4th hit of the night. Moments later, Cal Raleigh let a rare passed ball get away from him. The first he'd allowed all season. The potential go-ahead run moved into scoring position, yet almost mirroring the bottom of the 10th, Gilbert found a way out. 2 quick outs. Then an intentional walk to the Tigers' most dangerous bat, Riley Green, and with 2 on, 2 outs, he delivered a nasty strikeout to escape the jam and continue the marathon. In the top of the 12th, the Tigers got things going with 2 hits to kick off the inning. Seattle turned to Edward Bizzardo, and the first batter he faced dropped down a perfect sacrifice bunt. The go-ahead run was now 90 feet away. Unfortunately, a bad base running decision cost them this chance. On a broken bat hit to third, Zach McKinstry decided to run home, and he was out by a mile. So, with 2 outs, Kerry Carpenter stepped in, already 4 for 4 on the night. The Mariners thought about it, decided they weren't going to take that chance, and they put him on intentionally, and forced the moment onto Gleyber Torres. A few pitches later, he flew out, and somehow this game stayed tied. In the bottom of the 12th and 13th innings, the Mariners got the winning run on second base, and twice the inning ended in the exact same way, with a crushing double play. It felt like pitchers on both sides were thriving with runners on base, and were actually pitching better this way. In the 14th inning, the Tigers threatened again with a double.
And the Tigers have the go-ahead run in scoring position in the 14th.
So just like every other inning.
Yes.
Bizzardo then got 2 outs, and then the Mariners turned to their 3rd starting pitcher of the night, Luis Castillo, who got them out of it. Castillo was brilliant again in the top of the 15th, cutting through the Tigers' order to keep the game moving. Finally, in the bottom half, everything changed. J.P. Crawford opened the inning with a single. Randy Arozarena then was hit by a pitch. The tension increased as both runners advanced into scoring position, and then the Tigers made their move, intentionally walking Julio Rodriguez to set up a force at the plate. That decision left the moment in the hands of Jorge Polanco. Every person inside T-Mobile Park was on their feet. 15 innings of pressure, exhaustion, and missed chances came down to 1 swing. And this time, Polanco delivered, finally bringing the night to an end.
Polanco sends it in the right and will send Seattle to the American League Championship Series for the first time in 24 years.
The highlights for this game were 30 minutes long on YouTube, which is insane considering the normal game is around 10 minutes long. And this video you're watching right now is almost 3 hours long. So if you're still watching this far, you're a real one, and you should consider subscribing, because we have one more game, and although it's recent, and probably still fresh in people's minds, it's a great one, and it deserves a revisit. For over 30 years, Rogers Center has stood as one of baseball's most iconic stadiums, hosting countless unforgettable moments, including arguably 3 of the 10 greatest games in history. Choosing the single best game is nearly impossible. Yet, years from now, when fans look back, the 2025 World Series Game 7 will likely stand above them all.
One game to decide it all. Game 7 of the World Series from Rogers Center in Toronto pits the Los Angeles Dodgers against the Toronto Blue Jays.
On the mound for the Blue Jays stood Max Scherzer, 41 and far past his prime. The 3-time Cy Young winner had already pitched an MLB record 6 winner-takes-it-all games. Across from him was the best player on the planet, Shohei Ohtani, taking the mound on just 3 days rest. An unreal Game 7 matchup. One of those matchups you'll tell your grandchildren about. The first 2 innings were scoreless. Then, with 2 on, Bo Bichette stepped up to the plate and delivered one of the loudest, most electrifying moments Rogers Center has ever seen.
Swinging a fly ball, center field, Edman back, looking up, that ball's gone!
This was one of the most cold, no doubt home run reactions ever. Bichette knew as soon as he made contact that this one was gone. Ohtani's outing ended far earlier than anyone expected, but the Dodgers weren't defeated. Will Smith doubled in the 4th, and the Dodgers loaded the bases with just 1 out. Teoscar Hernandez came up and drilled a bullet to center, only for Dalton Varsho to make an unbelievable diving catch. 1 run scored, but at least 1 more was stopped in its tracks. On the very next at-bat, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. robbed Tommy Edman of a potential multi-RBI hit with another insane diving catch. Thanks to these spectacular defensive plays, the Blue Jays managed to escape the inning, having allowed just a single run. A small margin, but a crucial one in this game. Next came some confusion. Dodgers pitcher Justin Robleski threw a pitch. It hit Andres Jimenez, but it looked like he stuck out his hand to try and let it hit him. So the next pitch, Robleski drilled Jimenez for real this time, potentially on purpose. We can let you read his lips. But in all fairness, in a Game 7 of the World Series, I highly doubt he would be doing that on purpose. This resulted in the 2 almost fighting, with the benches and bullpens clearing as the game was delayed to sort this out. Both sides were issued a warning, and tensions calmed down, because George Springer got payback by smoking a liner right at Robleski. The Dodgers luckily worked their way out of the inning and kept the game where it was. Max Scherzer started the 5th inning, but was pulled for Louis Varland, who ended up breaking the MLB record for his 15th appearance this postseason. He got the Blue Jays through the 5th, but from this point, both sides really had to scramble to find anyone to pitch. This series already had an 18-inning game, and with how much pitching that takes to go 18 innings, every pitching matchup since then was completely out of whack. In the top of the 6th, Tommy Edman's sacrifice fly cut the lead to 3-2, but the Blue Jays answered immediately. In the bottom half, Andres Jimenez lined a double to bring home a run and make it 4-2. With the Blue Jays running low on options, rookie Trey Savage took the mound for the 7th. He'd been dominant all postseason. After walking the first batter, he got a flyout, and then the Blue Jays executed a spectacular 3-6-3 double play to escape the inning, and it sent the entire stadium into a frenzy.
The Blue Jays lead 4-2 at the 7th inning stretch, 6 outs away from the World Series.
In the top of the 8th, Savage returned, and Max Muncy crushed a towering home run off him, cutting the lead to 4-3. Closer Jeff Hoffman was called in early to finish the inning, and he did. In the bottom half of the 8th, Ernie Clement doubled, and after this, the Dodgers brought in another starting pitcher, Blake Snell, who was also on just 3 days of rest. The first batter up was Jimenez, who looked like he was squaring to bunt, so Muncy charged, but he pulled it back and nearly ended Muncy. Somehow, he was able to hang on to it and get an out.
Wow, he had to see his life flash before his eyes there. I don't know how he caught it.
This gave the Dodgers a chance to breathe, and Snell got the next few batters out. So the game went into the top of the 9th. The Dodgers 3, Blue Jays 4. The Blue Jays were 3 outs away from a championship. Jeff Hoffman got Kike Hernandez swinging, and then stepped in Miguel Rojas.
Is this the biggest game of your career? It has to be. I would say every pitch is going to be the most important pitch of my life today.
Rojas had endured a challenging MLB career, battling injuries all the way, and hadn't recorded a hit in over a month leading up to this game. At the same time, he was the Dodgers' leader, a player everyone looked up to, and he was ready for the moment.
The preparation started when I wasn't playing. There's no excuses of, oh no, I haven't played in 2 weeks. I knew the team was going to need me at some point.
Payoff. Drilled to left field and deep, and gone! No way! Miguel Rojas!
This hit by Rojas added 35.5% to the Dodgers' championship win probability added, making it the 9th most impactful play in MLB history. To be fair, we mentioned earlier that this stat does heavily weigh Game 7 of the World Series, especially later on in the game. But after that, the game was tied. What an unbelievable moment. In the bottom of the 9th, the crowd got the biggest clickbait ever with Vladdy's warning track flyout. This didn't kill the Blue Jays' rally. Bo Bichette singled, and then Addison Barger walked. This put the World Series winning run on second base. And then, the Dodgers did this.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto, ready to do some heroic stuff.
Yoshimoto Yamamoto, who had pitched 96 pitches the night before, was coming into the game. This didn't feel real. The first batter he faced, he hit.
World Series winning run, 90 feet away from home.
The Dodgers made a defensive sub to put their best arm in the outfield.
Andy Pages replaces Tommy Edman, getting the stronger arms out there.
That put the game on Dalton Varsho's bat, and he smoked the ball on the ground. Miguel Rojas stopped it, but it looked like it might have eaten him up. He stumbled but recovered, and delivered a perfect throw home to get the force. Next up was Ernie Clement, the man who had more hits this postseason than anyone in a single postseason. He needed just one more drop to be a hero, and be remembered in baseball history forever.
Fly ball to left field. Hernandez on the run with Pages over his head. Pages runs him over, makes the catch, sends Game 7 to the 10th.
Andy Pages, who was just subbed into the game, one at-bat ago, saved the Dodgers' season. An unreal and chaotic catch as he collided with his own teammate. One of baseball's craziest games and series was now heading into extras in Game 7. In the 10th inning, the Dodgers loaded the bases with one out, ready to take the lead. The Blue Jays hung with them though, recording a crucial out at the plate. Then came a tense play at first, but Sir Anthony Dominguez got his foot down just in time, escaping the jam and keeping the Blue Jays' hopes alive. Fueled by pure adrenaline, Yamamoto dominated the Blue Jays in the 10th inning. By now, it was past midnight on November 2nd, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Shane Bieber took the mound for Toronto in the 11th, quickly recording 2 outs, and then Will Smith came through.
Smith hits a high fly ball to deep left field. It's got a chance. It is gone. It's Will Smith.
The tie was now broken, and the Dodgers needed just 3 outs to claim the win. Naturally, Yamamoto continued on the mound, but Vladdy, perhaps the clutchest player in baseball, led off and ripped a huge double, putting himself on second as the tying run. The Blue Jays weren't done. A bunt moved him to third, and the tying run was now just 90 feet away. The Dodgers countered by pitching carefully around Addison Barger and issuing a walk to set up a potential double play. Then Alejandro Kirk stepped up to the plate, and the Dodgers adjusted their infield, fully prepared for the final defensive showdown.
Pitch, Kirk bounces one up the middle, bats to the back, over to first to beat the champ. You gotta knock him out. The Dodgers stand tall and win back-to-back titles.
No matter which team you're rooting for, you gotta admit, this game was a perfect baseball game. Every stadium has its games that capture that magic, from high-stakes playoff games to unforgettable performances, to opposing teams silencing the crowd of the home team, and even players representing their own nations in the World Baseball Classic. As stadiums come and go, new classics can be written. Baseball is evolving more than ever. Yet each of these games leaves a lasting imprint, reminding us why we love baseball and the memories it gives us. Subscribe if you love baseball.